Your eyes glaze for half a second and the world rushes in. A notification detonates like a small firecracker near your ear. The room feels warmer, breath hitching high in your chest. Your gaze skitters from tab to tab, hunting relief and finding only more noise. The deadline pulses like a red light behind your eyes. Shoulders creep toward your ears, jaw tightens, mind fractures into 10 unfinished thoughts. You start 3 things, finish none, time thins. You promise yourself you'll focus after coffee, after one more scan of messages, after this spike of panic passes. It doesn't. Sound familiar? Here's the difference you'll feel by the end of this session. The moment the pressure rises, you will build an unbreakable attention loop in under 60 seconds, calm, precise, and repeatable, so you can execute when it matters most. The first truth is mechanical, not moral. Your focus isn't weak, your nervous system is flooded. Under pressure, your amygdala yanks blood flow from your prefrontal cortex, which is the part that sequences steps and holds goals. That hijack is measurable and reversible. You will reverse it with breath chemistry first, then with a tiny decision cascade that your brain can trust. We're going to use 2 tools. The primary is the focus under fire protocol, a 3-step loop: aim, anchor, advance. The supporting tool is the 90-second weather rule, which treats surges like passing weather instead of personal failures. Together, they create a feedback loop your reticular activating system can recognize and reinforce. This is not about grinding harder, it's about giving your biology a pattern that locks in under stress. Imagine the room you're in right now. Feel the weight of whatever supports you. Notice your feet, the coolness or warmth of the floor through your shoes, the temperature at your cheeks. That cueing of sensations is how we begin to steal back blood flow. Breathe in for 4 through the nose, hold 4, out for 6 through the mouth. Again, the exhale length tells your vagus nerve that the saber-toothed tiger is a spreadsheet. Already, micro-oxygen returns to your frontal lobes. This is not mysticism, it's plumbing. Now that the panic dial is dropping 1 click, we can install the loop. The focus under fire protocol, aim, anchor, advance, sits like a simple ring on your finger. Aim is the 1-sentence target for the next 3 to 5 minutes. Anchor is the single sensory signal that keeps you tethered while you work. Advance is the first tiny action that starts momentum. You'll thread them into a loop you can run as often as needed, even mid-meeting, even mid-argument, even with hands shaking. Aim shrinks the battlefield. Anchor stabilizes the hand. Advance moves the mission 1 square. You'll watch this in a story before we practice. In a fluorescent conference room, Maya watched the client's face harden while her laptop spun and refused to load the dashboard. Heat rose at her collarbones. Someone's pen clicked. Her manager coughed. The deadline was right here, and her mind was already sprinting 6 steps ahead to the post-mortem. She felt her breath vanish to the top of her chest. She could feel the old pattern waking, babble to fill the silence, apologize, promise a fix, collapse later. Instead, she curled her left toes inside her shoe to find the floor. 1 breath in 4, hold 4, out 6. Aim, show the 1 metric that matters to this client in the next 2 minutes. Anchor, the coolness of the table edge under her wrist. Advance, ask 1 question that buys the exact data she could screen share from a backup. Before we pull the full report, she said, voice steadier than it felt, can we align on the single conversion event you'd like to optimize this week? The room stopped clicking. Trial start, the buyer said. Maya nodded, flipped to a static slide with that 1 number, and talked calmly for 90 seconds while the dashboard recovered. The deal closed at 4:42 p.m. She didn't become a different person. She installed a loop. Feel your own breath again. Air touches the inside of the nose, cool on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. Shoulders melt a couple millimeters down. The 90-second where the rule sits underneath everything we'll do. When a surge hits, anxiety, urgency, frustration, you do not fight the weather. You become the sky that notices it. For about 90 seconds, chemistry peaks and fades. For those 90 seconds, you label the weather storm of urgency. You let it rain while you keep your actions small and exact. If you treat the weather like an identity, you drown. If you treat it like weather, you hold the umbrella and keep walking. That's the identity shift beginning. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Here's how aim works when the room is loud. Your brain can't hold vague goals when cortisol is spiking. Finish everything is code for start nothing. You craft a phrase that would fit on the back of a business card. Draft opening paragraph. Pull last month's sales by region. Write the email subject line. It must fit inside 5 minutes because your biology trusts sprints, not marathons under fire. Say the aim out loud or under your breath. When you speak it, your RAS tags it, like highlighting a line in a book. Your attention begins to filter for what matches the phrase and ignore the rest. Anchor is your lifeline. Pick one sensory channel to tether you to now. Some people use the hum of the air conditioner, some the weight of the chair against the backs of their thighs, some a fingertip on a mug's warm ceramic ridge. Anchors work because sensation can't be processed in the same way as mind chatter. You're giving your brain a sturdy handle while the mental waves crash. Your anchor is not a ritual, it's a physics object. If you lose it, you regrip. If you forget it, you choose it again. Every time you re-anchor, you teach your nervous system that you can return. Advance is the smallest visible action that is obviously on path. Under pressure, smallest obvious wins. If your aim is draft opening paragraph, advance might be type the first ugly sentence. This approach saves 6 hours a week. If your aim is pull sales by region, advance might be open the spreadsheet and type the header row. The moment you advance, dopamine drips, not the sugary hit of novelty, the clean reinforcement of progress. Momentum warms your hands. Pause here, notice your jaw, loosen it, let your tongue rest, feel the air on your forearms, listen for the farthest sound you can detect, then the nearest. You're building a body map that says, I am here, it is now, nothing bad happens for inhaling. Your focus loop attaches to this feeling. Let's install it with a micro drill called the 1-minute forge. You'll run aim, anchor, advance once, deliberately so your system has a reference memory. Set a timer for 60 seconds when you finish listening. Before that minute, decide your aim, one sentence that matters. Choose your anchor, sensation you can feel. Choose your advance, first keystroke or micro action. When the minute starts, breathe 4-4-6 once, whisper your aim, touch your anchor, perform your advance, and stop when the timer ends even if you're mid-sentence. That stop matters. It tells your brain you operate the loop, not the panic. You will want to keep going. Don't end the minute, smile, you just forged a link. You might be thinking, what if the surge is too strong to even aim? Then you deploy the weather rule first. Label the storm, name the body data, heat in chest, buzzing in hands, pressure behind eyes. Give it 90 seconds. While the chemistry peaks, you do nothing fancy, you breathe 4-4-6, you keep your gaze soft, you feel the anchor. After 90 seconds, the wave will be smaller. That's not a belief. It's the half-life of adrenaline and the settling of the amygdala's alarm. Now create the aim and proceed. Here's a second story, smaller and closer. You're in your kitchen at 8:13 a.m., already late. Your phone is lit with messages from 3 different people who all believe their urgency should become yours. Your stomach tightens. You reach for the phone and stop mid-reach. You press your fingertips to the countertop's cool edge. Aim, reply to one message with one sentence that moves the ball. Anchor, the coolness under your fingers. Advance, type, got it, will send by 2 p.m. send. Put the phone face down. Breathe, pour coffee, walk out the door, nothing exploded. That move was tiny and everything. Your brain loves rituals, but it trusts evidence more. So we build evidence stacks with what I call RAS tagging. Every time you complete a loop, you say one neutral tag out loud, loop complete. That verbal tick becomes a lighthouse your attention will steer toward next time the sea gets rough. You are training your internal search engine to surface, aim, anchor, advance under heat. This is why we are not lecturing, we are labeling. Breathe once more. In for 4, hold 4, out for 6. Feel your clothes against your shoulders. Hear the quiet between sounds. If you notice an urge to pick up the phone right now, smile at it like you de-smile at a loyal but misguided dog. Good try. Sit. Stay. Your attention is a muscle that prefers kindness to punishment. We'll refine the loop soon, but you already have a working version. When you're under fire, your attention doesn't need a motivational speech, it needs a handle. Aim cuts through fog. Anchor keeps your hand steady. Advance moves you one square and starts dopamine's honest trickle. The weather rule makes room for messy humanity. And underneath every move you make is the identity shift that unlocks durability. You are not the storm, you are the sky it passes through. You are the awareness, not the emotion. From that awareness, focus becomes a tool, not a test of worth. Close your eyes for 3 breaths, unless you're driving. Feel the weight of your body. Let your face soften. Imagine a clean, bright loop in front of you like a simple ring. See the words aim, anchor, advance etched into it. Reach for the ring when the pressure spikes. It will be there. You're already wearing it. When you're ready, run the 1-minute forge. Then run it again later today. 3 loops in a day create a pattern your nervous system can find in the dark. That's how unbreakable focus begins, not in a heroic hour, but in tiny repeatable loops that hold under stress. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to become fully here. You learn to reach for aim, anchor, advance when the room heats up. Now we make the loop durable. Pressure doesn't always arrive as panic. Sometimes it hides as glitter, the pull toward a dozen interesting things. Your biology is wired to chase novelty because novelty once meant survival. In a world of feeds and pings, novelty is a sugar drip that corrodes deep work. To counter it, you'll install the attention loop too, which adds a structure around your loop so your brain doesn't have to renegotiate focus every 5 minutes. The structure is called the 3x3 focus field. It's simple, firm, and friendly to a nervous system under load. 3 micro sprints, 3 checkpoints, and 3 tiny rewards. It tells your brain what enough looks like, so you can stop when you've done enough and start again clean. Start by noticing your body right now. The back of your neck gathers warmth where it meets the air. Your hands hold a trace of electricity, a faint buzz from earlier tasks. Your eyes soften when you let them. Breathe in through your nose for 4, hold for 4, and send the exhale through pursed lips for 6. Feel the shoulders descend, a small release like a click in a belt. This is not indulgence, it's direction. You are moving blood back to the part that chooses. The 3x3 focus field sits atop aim, anchor, advance. In each field, you run 3 5-minute sprints with a 1-minute weather watch between them. Then you end with a 2-minute wrap that marks progress and gives a micro-reward. That frame taps the brain's love of beginnings and endings without asking for an hour of heroics. It also resets your reticular activating system at each checkpoint, tagging your goal again and again until the path lights up on its own. You will feel it as a click, a sense that your attention knows where to land before you tell it. In a small studio apartment smelling faintly of coffee and laundry soap, Andre sat with a half-finished grant proposal and a calendar bleeding red. His habit under fire was to balloon the problem into a 4-hour burden he avoided until midnight. Tonight, he tried something different. He whispered an aim, polished the opening paragraph so a tired reviewer can grasp the value in 10 seconds. He set his anchor as the cool rim of a chipped mug under his left thumb. Advance was to rewrite the first sentence with the end benefit first. He set a 5-minute timer, ran 446 once, felt the mugs cool and typed. When the timer rang, he didn't hustle past it. He paused for the 1-minute weather watch, labeled the pulse in his chest, and looked out the window at a sodium orange streetlight until his breathing deepened. 2 more sprints later, he had a paragraph that carried weight. He set a 2-minute rap, say out loud loop complete, highlight the paragraph in green, and take 3 slow sips of water as the reward. The job wasn't finished. The field was. His body learned that focus doesn't require suffering to count. You might worry that rituals will trap you. They won't if they are small and flexible. The focus field is scaffolding. It disappears once the building stands. While you still feel the tug of glitter, we anchor with another tool, the distraction triage. Under fire, not all interruptions are equal. Some are sparks you can let pass. Some are real alarms. Your brain treats everything like an alarm when you're flooded. Triage sorts them fast, without moralizing. The rule is this: when something pulls you, ask, spark or alarm. A spark is curiosity or minor discomfort. An alarm is a time-sensitive risk to safety, integrity, or someone else's critical path. If it's a spark, you note it in a later jar, a running capture doc, then return to aim. If it's an alarm, you run the loop on the alarm, aim 1 sentence for it, anchor, advance once, then return to the core task. You decide, not the ping. Pause again. The chair meets your thighs with steady pressure. The room has its own climate. Sense its temperature on your forearms. Your eyelids weigh a gram more when you inhale slowly. The breath leaves like a tide. You are the awareness holding the tide, not the tide itself. Here's a drill to install triage. Take 60 seconds and imagine a likely interruption in your day. The colleague on chat, the sudden email, the mind itch to check news. Treat it as a training rep, label it spark or alarm. If spark, say parking, write 1 neutral phrase about it in your later jar and touch your anchor. If alarm, whisper an aim to contain it for 3 minutes. Confirm venue by noon. Acknowledge receipt with a timestamp. Ask for the missing file. Advance once, then close it. You are not resisting reality. You are shaping flow. We add 1 more piece, the 2-tab rule. Multitasking inflames your nervous system. Your working memory juggles and drops, then blames you. The rule is merciful. During a focus field, you keep at most 2 tabs or windows open, your active work and your reference. If you need a third, you convert it to a deliberate advance with a clear end, then close it. This constraint is not asceticism, it is physics. Each tab is a whisper of possibility that taxes the prefrontal cortex. Fewer whispers, steadier hands. Smell the air as if you're catching the end of rain, even if the weather is dry. Feel your tongue resting wider in your mouth. Let it. Notice the tiny release in your lower back when you exhale longer than you inhale. You are feeding the loop. Your biology listens when you get specific. Let's revisit the science for a moment, not to lecture, but to aim. When you run 446, you activate the brake in your parasympathetic system. That lowers the amygdala's siren, which frees your prefrontal cortex to sequence steps. When you name the aim out loud, you recruit your RAs to filter for matches. When you execute the smallest advance, Dopamine reinforces the path. When you end a sprint on time and give a tiny reward, you teach your basal ganglia to prefer this loop over novelty. That's a lot of jargon you don't need to memorize. What matters is the feel, calm in the face, clarity in the next step, and a finish line that arrives before you burn out. In a glass-walled office late afternoon, the world humming with HVAC and distant laughter, Jeline faced a quarterly review deck with a story that wouldn't land. Her manager wanted a narrative. She had a spreadsheet. The old pattern was to add slides until no one could see the point. She remembered the focus field, set an aim for the first sprint, make slide 1 say the promise plainly. Her anchor was the steady pulse in her wrist where it met the desk. Advance was to write one line in bold. We cut time to resolution by 37% for customers. At minute 5, the timer chimed. She sat back, eyes resting on a plant's dark leaves, and let weather pass. Sprint 2 clarified the villain, the improvement defeated. Sprint 3 gave the proof. 2 minutes of wrap, a sip of cool water, and she stood up to shake out her arms. The deck wasn't finished. The loop had momentum. She felt less like a hustler, more like a craftsman. The deal memo got approved the next day with minimal edits. The win wasn't the email, it was the absence of self-abandonment under heat. A common fear arises: what if someone needs you during your field? You are not a monk in a mountaintop cell. That's why triage and the 2-tab rule exist. You can hold a boundary and still be responsive. The move is simple. When interrupted, you turn your head fully, physically, and acknowledge the person or message. You let your body register a shift. Then you either say, "Give me 5, I'll circle back," and you set a timer that honors your word, or you recast your aim to include this real-time need and run a mini loop. Your nervous system relaxes when your actions match your words. This is not about being unreachable. It's about being trustworthy to them and to yourself. Feel the floor with your whole foot now, heel through the ball. Cold, warm, textured. These tiny reports anchor you in the only place action exists. Listen for a far sound, the whisper of air, a car passing, a fragment of hallway conversation. Then the nearest sound may be your own breath. You return again and again, not because you're failing, but because returning is the practice. You are the sky noticing the moving weather. You are the awareness, not the emotion. We install the 3x3 focus field with a micro-practice called the Field Forge. Choose a task that matters and fits inside a small box: drafting an email, shaping a paragraph, mapping a plan for the afternoon. Set 3 5-minute sprints on your timer separated by 1-minute weather pauses, then a 2-minute wrap. Before each sprint, whisper your aim, touch your anchor, perform the smallest advance. During the pause, label the weather and feel one sensation clearly. In the wrap, say loop complete, mark progress visibly, a highlight, a check mark, and take a tiny reward, a stretch, a sip, a breath at an open window. Later, when you enter a high-pressure moment, your system will recall this template like muscle memory. Focus turns from wrestling to rhythm. To strengthen rhythm, you add the clock face focus. Picture a clock. You pick a quadrant 12 to 3 for a field. This visualization reduces ambiguity. Your brain likes to know when the song ends. If you need more, you move to the next quadrant. You don't owe anyone the whole clock at once. You create a culture inside your day where attention moves in arcs, not in erratic spikes. That arc matters because recovery is built in. Under siege, recovery is not a luxury, it's a strategy. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral and a little dry. Let your jaw loosen by 2 degrees. Feel the fabric against your upper arms, the slight drag when you move. These are footholds. In the territory of focus, footholds prevent slips. There will be days when glitter wins. You will open a tab that expands into 10. The loop will fall and you might call yourself names. That's where the identity shift saves you. When you feel the sting of self-judgment, place a hand flat on your sternum and say, "I am noticing a storm of shame." That sentence returns you to the sky view. Then run the smallest advance available, even if it is only closing one tab and whispering your aim again. You are not building a perfect record. You are training a reflex that chooses you. In a cramped kitchen at 10:02 p.m., a college student named Leela stared at a blinking cursor and a wall of assigned reading. The exam sat 3 days away like a shadow on the calendar. She had been doom-scrolling, pretending it counted as rest. Her chest felt sticky with guilt. She set the phone down face down, pressed fingertips to the cool porcelain of the sink, and inhaled. Aim. Outline 3 key concepts from Chapter 7 in the next 15 minutes. Anchor the coolness under her fingertips. Advance. Write the first header in her notebook. She drew a circle on the page, wrote one word, and felt the first clean drop of dopamine that isn't about novelty but about self-respect. 3 sprints later, she closed the book with a precise softness. The guilt didn't evaporate into roses. It settled into quiet, replaced by a tired satisfaction. She rinsed a glass and left it upside down to dry. The loop held. If you want to feel the loop harden, add one more practice, the afterglow note. At the end of a field, write 2 sentences in a log. Sentence 1, what you did in neutral language. Sentence 2, the next honest aim for when you return. This log becomes a set of breadcrumbs your future self will thank you for. It also trains your RAS to expect the next step without drama. When pressure spikes tomorrow, you reopen the log, and your brain doesn't start from fog. It starts from the next stone in the river. Sense your breath touching the soft palate at the back of your mouth, a cool brush on the inhale. Feel gravity pulling your shoulder blades down. Notice the weight of your attention resting on a word, then slipping, then returning. That's it. No fireworks, only fidelity. You are not trying to become a machine, you are becoming trustworthy to yourself. Sometimes the fire isn't noise, it is grief, fear, or anger. Focus doesn't ignore those. The weather rule makes room. If a wave swells and you feel tears threaten or heat bloom in your chest, you can still run a loop. Aim becomes gentle, stay with 3 breaths and write 1 true sentence. Anchor is the feeling of the chair, advance is the sentence. You are not pushing feelings away, you are letting them ride shotgun while you drive at a reasonable speed. Strangely, the feelings respect that. They stop grabbing the wheel. One last refinement, the sanctuary switch. Create a physical cue that marks entry into a focus field. It might be putting on a pair of headphones with no music, lighting a single unscented candle, or opening your document to full screen. When the switch flips, your body learns that you're not available to everything. When the field ends, you flip it back. Over days, this becomes a neural doorway. You step through and the room quiets, even if the world doesn't. Your attention is not brittle. It is a living thing that responds to care. With aim, anchor, advance inside the 3x3 focus field, with distraction triage and the 2-tab rule, with a clock face arc and a sanctuary switch, you have a kit for heat. More important, you have an identity you can trust. You are not a person who sometimes focuses, you are a person who returns. You are the awareness that chooses the next wise inch. That's sturdier than motivation. It's quieter than hustle. It lasts longer than adrenaline. Breathe 1 more time with precision. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. Feel the chair, the air, the weight of your clothes. See the loop in front of you, simple as a ring, now set inside a frame like a window. Outside the window, weather. Inside, the work you choose. You can step through whenever you need. You can step back out when you're done. That door is yours. Now open your calendar and find one quadrant in the next day to run a field. Name the task, choose the anchor, plan the tiny reward. When the moment comes, flip the sanctuary switch and step through. If someone knocks, you'll triage. If glitter sparkles, you'll park it in the jar. If a wave rises, you'll wait 90 seconds and breathe. And when the timer chimes, you'll wrap with kindness. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about building a loop that will carry you through fire without burning you to ash. You do not need to change who you are. You only need to give who you are the conditions to show up. The loop is working. Now we expand your capacity so the loop can carry heavier loads without snapping. Focus is not only about what you do in the next 60 seconds, it's also about what you let into those seconds. Today you'll install 2 structures that protect your attention from upstream leaks. The first is the noise gate, your way to engineer a higher signal-to-noise ratio across the day. The second is the focus budget, because attention spends like money, and you need to know what you can afford before the world starts shopping with your card. With a gate and a budget, aim, anchor, advance becomes effortless to enter and easier to sustain when fire comes from many directions at once. Before we tune anything, return to the body. Notice the skin across your cheeks. Is it cool or warm? Sense the faint stretch of your lower ribs when you inhale through the nose. Let the exhale leave longer than the inhale until your shoulders drop a few millimeters. Feel your feet, each toe inside your shoes. These are not random instructions. They are switches that move blood back to choice-making circuits. You aren't calming down to be calm, you're calming down to steer. The noise gate is a simple framework with 3 moves. Identify, isolate, inoculate. Identify is the honest map of where noise enters, devices, people, spaces, internal narratives. Isolate is creating physical or temporal boundaries for those channels. Inoculate is predeciding your response when a known noise appears. None of this is moral. It's plumbing. You are not eliminating life, you are routing it. You decide the diameter of each pipe so pressure doesn't burst your day. Watch it in a story. On Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m., Kyan's open office became a carnival. Sales celebrated, support vented, and his inbox sprinted. He had been telling himself a story that good teammates are instantly responsive. Under fire, he would answer everything and watch his core project wither. He ran Identify first. Main noise sources were chat pings, a well-meaning colleague who loved to brainstorm, and his own reflex to check news when stuck. Isolate came next. He set chat to show only priority mentions during his 3x3 focus field, told the colleague he'd be fully available at 11:45, and placed his phone face down in a drawer with a sticky note reminding him of the aim. Inoculate was the script. When the colleague appeared early, he would stand, physically signaling transition, and say, "I want to give you full brain at 11:45. Right now I'm in a 15-minute window. Can I grab you then?" The first Wednesday he tried it, something odd happened. The office stayed loud, his interior stayed quiet, the gate held. His project moved one clean square forward, and at 11:45 he gave his colleague sharp, generous attention. No one was harmed. The work was served. Pause, feel air travel across the back of your throat, and soften your tongue against the floor of your mouth. Sense the slight weight at the bridge of your nose, the way gravity pulls it down. Listen for the farthest sound, then the nearest. You're building the habit of returning. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the noise. Now the focus budget. Your day is not an endless battery, it's a wallet. The budget has 3 envelopes: precision, production, and people. Precision time is for thinking that needs your sharpest prefrontal cortex, strategy, writing hard sentences, decisions with consequences. Production time is for throughput, sending, formatting, scheduling, moving items along. People time is for meetings, collaboration, care. The trap is to spend precision on people's urgencies and then attempt precision work at 9:30 p.m. when your brain is a dim hallway. You flip it. You allocate your freshest 90 minutes to precision, protect them with the noise gate, and you let production and people sit around that core. The loop lives best in precision. It still works in the others, but this is where it shines. Here's a micro practice to install the budget called the 3-line ledger. Each morning or the night prior, you write 3 lines. What gets your precision envelope, what fills production, what belongs to people. 1 line each, no extra sentences. Then you speak it aloud once. Speaking tags your RAS, writing gives a receipt. During the day, when a request arrives, you check the ledger. If it belongs in a different envelope, you schedule it to that envelope. You are not stone, you are a steward. Let your breath find a 4-4-6 again. 4 in through the nose, hold 4, 6 out through pursed lips. Feel the front of your chest loosen and the back broaden. Temperature at your forearms, notice it. Your nervous system is learning that focus begins in the body, not in the browser. There's a quiet sabotage you'll catch as you budget, the internal narrator that whispers, if you don't respond right now, they'll think you don't care. The noise gate inoculates this with a humane script called the respectful delay. It's 1 sentence you can send quickly. Received, working inside a focus block, I'll reply by 1:30. That line respects others and protects your precision envelope. You match your behavior to your promise and your system relaxes. Integrity reduces adrenaline. In a sunlit spare bedroom turned office, Annika wrestled with a product brief that refused to cohere. Her habit under fire was to read 3 articles and open 7 tabs, searching for the one insight that would save her. She drew the 3-line ledger on a sticky. Precision, draft the 1-sentence problem statement and the 1-sentence outcome. Production, compile competitor features. People, 3 p.m. sync. She flipped the sanctuary switch by putting on her headphones, no music, and set her noise gate, phone in drawer, chat in mention-only mode. Aim, write those 2 sentences. Anchor, the even weight of the headphones on both ears. Advance, type the first ugly version of the problem sentence. 5 minutes later, she had 2 sentences that actually bit. Then she let herself open 1 tab for proof and closed it when done. She felt taller, not because the world slowed down, but because she stopped sprinting against herself. You will be tempted to skip environment shifts. Don't. Space anchors behavior. The desk reset is a 90-second ritual to make the field easier. Push your chair back, stack or remove anything unrelated to the aim. Place your anchor in reach, a mug, a smooth stone, the keyboard home keys. Take 3 deliberate breaths, then begin. That tiny change tells your basal ganglia, we're here, do the thing. You are training a dog, not arguing with a judge. Dogs learn by repetition and feeling, not by speeches. Check in with your body, notice the hinge of your jaw, let it slacken by a notch. Sense the contact points on your seat, the left-right balance. The air has a taste, even if it's neutral. Let your eyes soften their focus for 2 seconds, then return to the words. The loop deepens when you treat the body as a partner. A quick science bridge so you can aim your drills with respect. When you guard precision windows, you reduce task switching, and that preserves glucose for the prefrontal cortex. When you speak the respectful delay, you cut off the anticipation spike that keeps cortisol elevated. When you run desk reset, you hand your basal ganglia a consistent cue, and habits adhere faster. This is not theory for theory's sake. It's a blueprint you can feel the moment you try it. You also need a tool for when your mind refuses to stay. Enter the Sidecar sweep. It's a 30-second reset that uses your eyes to tell your nervous system you're safe. Look left as far as comfortable, then right, then left, slow 3 times. Let the periphery widen. Your amygdala relaxes when the horizon expands. Immediately after, whisper your aim and touch your anchor. This is particularly strong when you hit a cognitive wall and want to flee to glitter. Instead, you sweep, you aim, you advance. There will be a day when the storm isn't outside but inside, a loop of self-critique that sounds wise because it uses your voice. For that, you deploy the thought label, "I'm having the thought that I'm behind." That tiny phrase introduces distance. You are not fused with the thought, you are noticing it. From that space, you can run a loop. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the thought. The sky again. The weather still moves, you still steer. In a crowded kitchen with kids wrangling breakfast, a founder named Lewis tried to prepare a bored email while the toaster complained. Noise gate in this scene meant a different thing. He couldn't isolate the kids, he could inoculate his response. He bent down to eye level and said, "I'm writing for 9 minutes. When the timer dings, I'm yours for 3. He set a visible timer on the counter. Aim, draft the first paragraph. Anchor, the warmth of the mug against his right palm. Advance, type the first line. The timer ticked. The kids negotiated grape jelly with each other, he wrote. At the ding, he stood up and moved fully into the 3 minutes. His attention matched his promise. The email wasn't finished. The relationship was strengthened. The loop adapted without cracking. Taste the breath again. The air touches the soft palate and leaves warmer. Your spine lengthens on the inhale and softens on the exhale. Let your hands rest larger on whatever they touch, spreading contact, grounding your map of now. Sensation is a door you keep walking through. We add one last upgrade today, the RAS bookmark. At the end of any focus field, you plant a single word or short phrase that describes what right next looks like. You write it at the top of the doc or on a sticky. The phrase begins with a verb and is stupidly clear. Summarize customer quote, test chart colors, cut sentence 2. Your reticular activating system loves this because it can carry the tag forward while you sleep. And the next time you open the file, your eyes land on the bookmark and your hands start moving before doubt wakes up. This is how you turn tomorrow's fire into familiar weather. When distraction returns, and it will meet it with the distraction bow. Not a fight, a bow. Tilt your head slightly, acknowledge the pull and say, not now, later at 2, or right now for 3 minutes. And then you run the loop on that choice. You de-escalate the inner argument. You remain the steward of your budget. You remain the builder of your gate. In a dim library, a student named Nor felt the tide of panic rise 30 hours before an exam. Her pattern was to go maximal, outline the entire course. The budget reframed it. Precision, memorize 3 pathways that keep appearing. Production, organize flashcards. People, study partner at 5. She ran a noise gate on her own mind by writing the thought label each time catastrophe showed up. I'm having the thought that I'll blank. Sidecar sweep, whisper aim, anchor to the cool wood under her forearms, advance by drawing one pathway from memory. 90 minutes later, she felt used, the good kind, not wrung out. She closed her notebook and walked home under a sky that felt bigger than the test. You may still fear that this discipline will make you rigid. It won't. The gate opens when you choose, the budget shifts when life shifts. The difference is choice. The loop is not a prison, it's a path out of one. Trains run on tracks not to be trapped, but to reach the city on time. You're laying tracks, one quiet rail at a time. Notice the temperature at the back of your neck. Is there a breeze? Notice the weight of your clothes on your shoulders, the slight grip of fabric at the elbow. Listen for a sound beneath the obvious ones, maybe a faint hum. Then feel the steady pressure of gravity holding you in place. This is the texture of now. From here, you can choose. To close, run the noise gate microdrill called map, move, message. Map 2 primary noise channels for the next focus field. Move one object or setting to reduce each. A door closed, a status set, a phone relocated. Message one person if needed with the respectful delay. Then step into a 3-line budget and pick the precision move. Aim, anchor, advance. When you stop, plant a RAS bookmark so tomorrow greets you with a hand extended, not a fog bank. You are not becoming a different person to earn focus. You are remembering the person who can choose in the middle of weather. You are training your biology, not shaming it. The world will stay loud, your loop will stay simple. And each time you keep your promise to your attention, a small door opens inside your chest and fresh air slides in. That's not the world changing, that's you stepping into stewardship. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The sky holds. Pressure rarely arrives at a convenient hour. It shows up when you're tired, underfed, or after 3 hours of meetings where your brain felt like a browser with 40 tabs and one dying fan. Today you learn to protect focus when you're running on fumes. Not by pretending you're fresh, but by using fatigue-aware design. You'll install 2 structures that let you execute even when the tank is low. The first is the talk, glide cycle, how to alternate deliberate effort with regenerative micro-coasting so your prefrontal cortex stays online. The second is the single task studio, how to create a tiny, repeatable scene where only one action is possible, even in chaotic spaces. Together, these make the loop resilient. Aim, anchor, advance doesn't require heroics. It needs a rhythm and a room. Notice your body before we build anything. Air cool against the inside of your nostrils, warmer leaving. A thin band of tension across the forehead loosens 2 degrees as you exhale longer than you inhale. Shoulders drop a notch. Tongue rests wider on the floor of your mouth. If you're holding your breath without knowing, that's your biology bracing for impact. Let the breath move like a tide at night. No applause, just reliability. You are not trying to feel amazing. You are trying to feel enough to steer. The talk, glide cycle is simple. Talk is a short, intentional push that demands precision. Glide is a deliberate coast that restores without letting your attention wander off a cliff. Under fire, you alternate them like swimmers do intervals. Push the wall, streamline, repeat. Talk is 3 to 7 minutes of concentrated action on a crisp aim. Glide is 40 to 90 seconds of recovery that still points toward the aim. The crucial detail is that glide isn't escape, it's refuel. You stay within the task's gravity while letting your nervous system drop a gear. This keeps dopamine trickling and cortisol contained, which protects working memory. When you're tired, long sprints crack, intervals hold. See it in a story. On a rain-bright Thursday, Priya had to write a 2-page brief by noon while battling a night of fractured sleep thanks to a neighbor's party. Her eyes felt sandy, her skull buzzed. The old pattern was to caffeinate and grind until her brain rebelled with a tab explosion. This time she whispered an aim, produced the problem paragraph and one proof sentence. Anchor, the weight of a ceramic cup against her palm. Advance, type one ugly line beginning with the real cost is. She set a 3-minute talk, breathed 446 once and wrote. At the chime, she didn't flee to messages. She entered glide, eyes soft on the midpoint of the screen, hands off the keyboard, 3 slow nasal breaths, reread only the last 2 sentences and circle one verb to strengthen next. 45 seconds. Next talk, 3 minutes on verbs. Next glide, sit tall, roll shoulders once, Look at a far point to widen the visual field, then back. After 4 cycles, the paragraph stood. She wasn't fresh, she was functional. The brief landed at 11:56 with a clean spine. She felt not triumphant, but intact. Pause and check your own edges. Temperature at your cheeks, cool, warm, the slight drag of fabric at the forearms, the left-right balance on your seat. If your jaw clenches, let your teeth unmeet. Your nervous system logs these as safety markers. Safety opens the door to choice. Fatigue distorts time and judgment. You think you need a break, and you do, but wandering breaks often smuggle you into friction, news, chat, sugar loops that drain more than they fill. Glide is a different animal. Glide has 4 rails: breathe, widen gaze, micro-tidy the exact sentence or cell you just worked on, and predecide the next tiny advance before you re-enter talk. That's it. You move blood back to the prefrontal cortex, tell the amygdala the horizon is wide and safe, and plant a marker for your RAS. You return to the wall ready to push without psyching yourself up like an athlete at the Olympics. This is a small kitchen rhythm, not a stadium performance. Now build the second structure, the single-task studio. A studio is a tiny stage that contains only the props you need for one scene. When the world is loud, you don't fight the world, you shrink the stage. The studio has 3 elements: a cue that signals entry, a cradle that holds only the object of the aim, and a close that returns you to life with dignity. The cue might be placing your laptop on a tray by a window, or opening a paper notebook to a page with only a 3-word aim in the top left corner. The cradle is the arrangement that makes alternatives awkward. Full-screen document, phone in another room, 1 pen uncapped, 1 glass of water within reach. The close is a visible reset, a slash mark across the last line, a sticky note that says loop complete, next, tighten header, the laptop lid lowered with a soft click. The brain trusts beginnings and endings. A studio gives you both in a predictable container. You can build a studio in ugly environments, in a hospital hallway, in a car before a meeting, at your kitchen table while kids stage a serial opera. Watch Jamal in a lot outside a client's site. He had 10 minutes to prep a high-stakes question after a morning jammed with traffic and a spilled coffee. The old pattern was to scroll for courage and arrive scattered. He created a parking lot studio. Cue, seat slid back 1 notch, phone face down under the visor. Cradle notepad on steering wheel, 3 words on top, ask for numbers. Anchor, the texture of the steering wheel under his ring finger. Talk, 3 minutes to draft the single question and 2 follow-ups. Glide, eyes up at a tree line, 3 breaths, reread the question for crispness. Close, cap pen with a deliberate click, whisper loop complete, next, listen first. He walked in warm, not blazing, but sufficiently lit. The ask landed. The meeting moved. He left without the usual adrenaline hangover. Feel the skin at the nape of your neck. A trace of warmth gathers where fabric meets skin. Inhale through the nose for 4, hold 4, release 6. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back like 2 heavy coins settling. You are placing the body in the present so the mind can work inside it. A fatigue-aware identity accepts that tired brains make sloppier predictions, so you add another micro-tool inside your studio called the honest floor. The floor is the minimum viable advance that still counts as real. When you're depleted, you work to the floor, not the fantasy. Write 3 sentences, rename 3 file headers, draft the first bullet into a full sentence. The floor keeps you in motion without stealing from tomorrow. The trick is to bless the floor when you hit it. Say floor reached, close the studio, walk away 2 minutes early. That restraint feels like leaving money on the table. It's actually deposit interest for the next session. Your basal ganglia love that predictability. A brief science bridge so you respect what you feel. Sleep debt elevates adenosine and nudges cortisol, narrowing attention. Long, willful focus in that state consumes glucose faster and invites avoidance. Alternating talk and glide creates a metronome that preserves executive function by preventing your amygdala from declaring an all-out emergency. Widening the gaze during glide signals your superior colliculus and calms threat detection. A studio reduces choices, which lightens the load on working memory. You don't need the terms, you need the handles, intervals, small stage, honest floor. You may object, what about big creative leaps? Don't intervals chop them into pieces? In practice, the opposite. Glide is where insights surface because you stop strangling the problem. You are still inside the gravitational field of the aim, but the grip loosens enough for your network mode to contribute. Many call this the shower effect. We simply make it portable and on purpose. Here is a drill to wire the cycle and the studio together. It's called 2x2 Forge. Create a micro studio wherever you are right now. One sentence aim at the top of your page, full screen, phone away. Run 2 talk, glide rounds back to back. Talk 1, 3 minutes. Glide 1, 45 seconds, breathe, widen gaze, pick one verb to strengthen. Talk 2, 3 minutes. Glide 2, 45 seconds, breathe, reread just the last 2 lines, plant the next advance. Close the studio with a visible mark and whisper, loop complete, next. Your bookmark. This is a 4 to 5 minute build that teaches your nervous system the feel of movement without drama. You are installing rhythm where willpower used to be. Check sensation again. The air has a taste, faintly metallic or neutral. Your hands are warmer than your forearms. The chair gives steady pressure to your thighs. Listen for a fast sound, a hum, a faint clang, then return to the near sound of your own breath. You're building a sky that can hold more weather. In a fluorescent-lit copy room, Mara faced the consequence of an earlier mistake. She had submitted a draft with an outdated chart, and her manager's email had the tone that sets hearts sprinting. Her body flushed. She felt the urge to write a long apology and spiral into self-protection. She set a studio on the counter by the stapler. Cue, place laptop, stand with both feet grounded, palms on the cool surface for 3 breaths. Aim, draft a concise correction plan with a timestamp and a replacement chart. Anchor, the cool surface under her palms. Talk, 4 minutes to write the plan. Glide, eyes on the doorframe's vertical line, breathe, choose one adjective to cut. Talk, 3 minutes to paste the corrected chart. Close, type loop complete, next. Send at 2:05, step away to run the 90-second weather rule as tears threatened. When she hit send, the email was clean and steady. The manager's reply came back, thanks for the quick fix. The relief wasn't thunderous, it was quiet, like a room that finally stops humming. She had stayed with herself under heat. Fatigue often comes with irritability and a taste for self-judgment. Install a line called the gentle gate. Before you enter a talk minute, say, I will not insult myself for the next 3 minutes. That sentence seems sentimental. It's biochemical. Insults spike stress and burn glucose. Kindness is efficient. Your performance does not worsen, it steadies. There's a trap on glides, turning them into secret escapes. If you catch yourself reaching for the phone or opening a new tab, that's not failure, that's untrained hands. Use the distraction bow, nod to the urge, whisper not now, later at 2. Then put one finger on your anchor, a mug ridge, the keyboard home key, and take a single 4-4-6. The urge shrinks because it was seen. You didn't lock yourself in a cage, you offered the dog a treat and a direction. Feel your spine stack, crown gently rising. Sense the small muscles behind the eyes relax when you let the gaze go soft. The room has edges, see them without naming them. Return. You are the awareness, not the irritation, not the pull of glitter, not the ache of tiredness. You'll add one more element today, the close with dignity. How you end focus determines whether you dread starting again. The close has 3 beats. You name what you did in exact language, wrote 148 words of the intro, you plant the RAS bookmark, next, cut sentence 2, and you perform a physical gesture that feels ceremonial, closing the lid with a quiet click, sliding the chair in, exhaling with your hand on your chest. This is not theatrical. It's training the nervous system to expect a clean door both in and out. Doors create safety. Safety creates repeatability. In a buzzing co-working space, a designer named Tessa used to slam her laptop and flee, then struggle to re-enter later like pushing through wet sand. With close with dignity, she paused 10 seconds, whispered the bookmark, touched the table's smooth edge, and slid the chair in. That single graceful move changed the aftertaste of work. She returned at 3 p.m. without the usual bargaining because her body remembered a soft ending. You can give that to yourself at home, in offices, in parking lots, anywhere a door can be imagined. If you feel a wave of emotion now, frustration, sadness, the ache of regret for time scattered, use the 90-second weather rule beneath everything. Name it storm of regret. Sit with the body data, warmth in cheeks, pressure at temples, fizz in hands. Let it crest. Keep your advance small. You're not delaying life, you're letting chemistry pass while you stay human. To wire this permanently, run the evening studio once this week. 10 minutes, low stakes, the task you normally avoid because you're tired, receipts, a paragraph, a calendar plan, cue with a small light on your desk. Cradle the single object. Run 3 talk glide rounds, close with dignity. Then write 2 sentences in your afterglow note, what you did and the next aim. This teaches your system that focus isn't a morning-only virtue. You become a person who can choose small clarity at night without self-harm. Taste the inside of your mouth. Is it dry? Sip water if you can, feel the cool path down the throat. Notice your hands, weight, temperature, the way tendons slacken when you release the mouse. Put one palm on your chest and one on your belly. Feel which moves more, then let the lower hand lay gently. This is not a performance, it's a pact. You will meet yourself where you are and still move 1 square. The power you're building isn't the ability to bulldoze through exhaustion. It's the craft of shaping time so your future self trusts you. Talk when it matters, glide when it's wise. Build a studio that makes deviation awkward. Bless the floor, close with dignity. On days when your brain feels like a flickering light, you don't scold the bulb, you fix the circuit and you use the lamp you have. Across weeks, that lamp gets brighter because you stopped shaking it and started tending it. One more breath, slow and exact. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Hear the tiny sound of air at your nostrils. Feel gravity's steady hand on your hips and thighs. Let your eyes rest on something simple and still. Whisper an aim that fits in 3 minutes. Touch your anchor, choose the smallest advance. Whether you are fresh as morning or soft as evening, the loop belongs to you. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Your loop works in the furnace, and when you're tired, now you'll learn to disarm the one saboteur clever enough to slip past every gate, the story your mind tells about the cue it just noticed. A ping is a sound. I'm behind is a story. A raised eyebrow is a muscle movement. They think I'm incompetent is a story. Inside that split-second translation, attention leaks. Today you'll install 2 frameworks that immunize focus at the level of meaning. The first is the cue meaning gap, your way to insert a breath of agency between what happens and what you decide it means. The second is the language latch, a tiny phrasing shift that locks your attention to action instead of to fiction. With these, aim, anchor, advance stops being interrupted by interpretations masquerading as facts. First, put your body in a place that can choose. Feel the air on your inner nostrils, cool in, warmer out. Let your shoulders fall and your jaw unhook so your teeth don't touch. Notice the temperature along your forearms where fabric rests. Hear the farthest sound you can catch, then the nearest, maybe your own breath. You're not calming for the sake of calm. You are directing blood back to the prefrontal cortex so it can keep you honest about what's real. The cue meaning gap is simple. Everything arriving at your senses is a cue. Your brain's job is to assign meaning fast, using memory and bias. Under pressure, it picks the loudest old meaning, not the truest present one. The gap is a 3-beat protocol called name, frame, choose. Name the cue in plain, physical language. Frame the meaning in 3 plausible ways: protective, neutral, and constructive. Choose the smallest advance that fits the most useful frame. Fast, compassionate, and repeatable. You are not arguing with your brain, you are giving it options it can trust. Watch it in a story. At 2:07 p.m. your boss writes, "Can you jump on a quick call?" Your chest tightens, heat gathers at your cheeks. Old patterns sprint into apology mode, attention shatters, you overtalk. The gap enters. Name, text on screen, chest warm, jaw tight. Frame, protective, danger, you're in trouble. Neutral, scheduling check. Constructive, opportunity to clarify expectations. Choose the smallest advance that serves all frames without self-harm. Reply with 2-time windows and 1 sentence of agenda. Free at 2:30 or 3:15. Do you want to review the launch checklist? You just kept your hands on the wheel. The call might still be hard, but your meaning didn't run you, you ran a loop. Pause and find sensation. The back of your neck registers air, a thin coolness. Your tongue rests wider. Inhale for 4, hold 4, exhale for 6. The moment you lengthen the exhale, the vagus nerve signals safety and the amygdala's siren softens. You've bought half a second. Half a second is a kingdom in focus time. Here's the friction you'll meet: sticky thoughts that pose as facts. There isn't enough time. This needs to be perfect. If I don't respond, they'll be angry. They might be partly true, but the language latch turns their grip into a handle. The latch is the phrase, "I'm having the thought that." You add it in front of any sentence that feels like law. "I'm having the thought that there isn't enough time." Space opens. You are the awareness noticing the thought, not the thought itself. Then you append a verb. "So I will draft the first ugly paragraph." The latch keeps the story from colonizing your hands. Story becomes scaffold. In a cramped hallway outside a conference room, Devon stared at a slide with a typo. His stomach twisted, breath thinned, the old chorus rose, "You always screw up at the end." He caught the cue, pixels on a screen, stomach tight, breath high. He ran the latch. "I'm having the thought that I always screw up at the end, so I will fix this word, breathe once and run the 90-second weather rule." 2 minutes later, his cheeks cooled. He walked in steady. No mythology, just repair. The pitch landed. The win wasn't poetic, it was surgical. Feel your own body again. The chair presses evenly on your thighs. One toe presses against the shoe's inner seam. Notice it. A tiny release arrives between your eyes when your exhale goes long. These micro-checks keep you in the room you can act in. A science bridge right-sized. Your reticular activating system searches for what your words tag. If you whisper disaster, it highlights threat and hides options. When you say, I'm having the thought that, you recruit meta-awareness in the anterior cingulate and return blood to the prefrontal cortex. When you generate 3 frames, you prevent the amygdala from locking into a single predictive model. None of this requires a lab coat. It requires a sentence and a breath. Let's make the gap practical with a micro drill called the 3-frame card. On a small card or note at the top of a document, write 3 headings: protective, neutral, constructive. When a hot cue hits, you give yourself 30 seconds. Name the cue in body language. Write 1 sentence for each frame. Then pick a smallest advance that doesn't burn any bridge. If you can't find one, your advance is to ask a question. Questions widen options, statements lock them. You run this drill 3 times today, even once on a minor cue. Reps build immunity. You need an anchor phrase for high heat. Use the focus password. It's 6 words. Describe what is here, then act. Describe in physical terms, text on screen, warm cheeks, buzzing fingers, then act with the aim you already set. The password telegraphs to your nervous system that you won't let story run the show. You are the awareness, not the narrative weather. Sensory check. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral, maybe slightly dry. Feel the seam of your clothing at the shoulder, a soft line. Listen for a hum. Then place 1 fingertip on a physical anchor, a mug ridge, the keyboard home key, and breathe once. There's your doorway. Here's where many high achievers fall: perfection myths. Perfection tries to protect you from embarrassment by making you wait until you're invulnerable. Focus doesn't need perfection, it needs direction. Install the 70% rail. When a draft hits 70% clarity, readable, honest, not shiny, you send it to the next gate with a question attached. Here's a rough. What's missing? Your language latch covers the fear. I'm having the thought that this has to be perfect. So I will send the 70% with 1 question. You move the work and reveal blind spots early. You protect attention by not letting it rot inside the jar of your head. In a small kitchen with morning light, Ari argued with their partner about dishes, an old groove that ate whole afternoons. Cue, partner sighs and sets a plate too hard. Old meaning, disrespect. Gap name, ceramic sound, shoulders tightening, breath high. Frame protective. We're repeating the old pattern, neutral. Plate met counter with force, constructive. Signal they're overloaded. Choose, advance is to ask, is this about plates or bandwidth? The conversation shifted from accusation to logistics in under 2 minutes. Focus protected not because they avoided feelings, but because they translated cues with care. Work benefited because attention didn't bleed out in a shame storm. You do not have 2 lives. You have 1 nervous system crossing domains. Breathe 4 in, hold 4, 6 out. Temperature at your cheeks. Loosen your jaw. Let your gaze widen to include the edges of the room, then gently return to the words. Widening calms your threat detector. Your hands stay yours. You'll meet sticky memories that try to dictate meaning. For those, use the story sandbag. When a flood of this always happens rises, you place 3 sandbags: present data, boundary of scope, next inch. Present data, 2 facts you can verify. Boundary of scope, what this is not. Next inch, the smallest advance inside your control. Example, present data, 1 customer complained, 2 praised. Scope, this is feedback on a feature, not my character. Next inch, schedule a 10-minute call to ask for specifics. Sandbags don't deny water, they keep it from taking the house. A shorter drill you can run mid-meeting is the 2-word rename. When your brain throws a catastrophic label, failure, disaster, ruined, you rename it with 2 bland words that don't reward drama Process gap, timing mismatch, data question. Then you run aim, anchor, advance. This is not euphemism, it's precision. Precision frees action. In a dim lab, a researcher named Mina watched a 3-month experiment sputter. A reagent shipment was late. A control group's data looked off. The grant was due. Catastrophe labels gathered like storm clouds. 2-word rename, supply delay, control drift. Q meaning gap, name the Q's emails, numbers, pulse in throat, and write the 3 frames. Choose the advance, write the supplier a time-stamped escalation, draft a 2-sentence limitation note for the grant, schedule a control check. She didn't save the world that day, she saved the work. Focus endured because story served action, not the reverse. Sensation, feel your palms, the dry or moist texture. Notice your breathing's shape like a rectangle. Inhale up the left, hold along the top, exhale down the right, rest along the bottom. The rectangle gets longer on the right. The body wants to help you, let it. Sometimes the cue is internal, fatigue, loneliness, hunger. Your brain loves to translate those as moral narratives about discipline. The gap treats them as weather. Name, empty belly, heavy eyes, dull forehead. Frame, protective, stop now or break. Neutral, this is natural dip time. Constructive, opportunity to run a short talk glide. Choose, advance to close with dignity or to run 1 3-minute push before a snack. When you respect biology, biology respects your plan. You may fear that reframing is lying. It is. It's choosing among truthful descriptions the one that keeps you honest and effective. The protective frame honors risk. The neutral frame prevents drama. The constructive frame gives you a foothold. If a frame denies reality, you will feel it in your body as tightness and shallow breath. Trust that signal. Adjust. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the first draft of meaning. Let's wire this into reflex with a practice called the gap rep set. For the next hour, you'll deliberately run 5 gap reps on small cues, a ping, a sigh, a self-judgment. Each rep is 30 seconds. Name the cue physically, write or whisper 3 frames, choose 1 micro-advance. After the rep, say loop complete, touch your anchor, and feel 1 sensation clearly. 5 reps are under 3 minutes total. By evening, your attention will feel greased where it used to grind. Another tool to keep sharp, the 3-question cross-check. When you catch a hot thought, run these fast. What else could this mean that is still true? What do I control for the next 3 minutes? What is the smallest advance that changes the state? Answer without poetry. Then execute. Crosscheck shifts you from courtroom to workshop. In an echoing stairwell between floors, a manager named Sasha read a terse message from a VP. Need numbers now. Heat rose, old meaning said doom. Crosscheck, else it could mean urgency for a deck, not punishment. Control, 3 minutes of clarity. Advance, send the last reliable number with a timestamp and note the pending pull. She did. The reply came, perfect. Use that for the slide. No ceremony, just attention saved. Notice your posture. Let your ribs soften with the exhale. Feel the chair under you a little more, the weight settling. Hear a small sound no one else hears, maybe the click of your throat as you swallow. This is your studio of awareness. You can work here. A final pairing today binds language to behavior, the verb switch. Thoughts love adjectives, messy, slow, stupid, which describe and judge. Attention loves verbs, open, cut, send, which move. When you catch yourself in adjective land, you switch to a verb. This draft is messy becomes cut sentence 2. I'm behind becomes send the status. Verbs are doors your hands can find in the dark. Adjectives are mirrors in dim rooms. Use mirrors to groom, use doors to go. We need one more story where the stakes are personal. In the dusk of a bedroom, a parent named Elena sat with a child whose homework sprawled across the bed like vines. The child's eyes shone with tears and defiance. Q, pencil thrown, voice raised. Old meaning, disrespect, you're failing as a parent. Gap, name, sound of pencil, heat in cheeks, tight throat. Frame, protective, teach boundaries. Neutral, frustrated child with task mismatch. Constructive, chance to model the loop. Choose, Elena placed her hand on her sternum to feel her own anchor, breathed 446 and said, describe what is here, then act. I see a pencil and a hard face. Let's pick one problem and set a 3-minute timer. They did 3 talk, glide rounds with glides as shoulder rolls and big breaths. The worksheet didn't become a festival. It ended. No one was perfect. The house kept its light. Sensation again. Let your eyes rest on one still object for 2 heartbeats. Feel the air at the edges of your ears. Bring your attention to your feet and spread your toes inside your shoes if you must. Gravity is an anchor you always carry. To close today, combine the frameworks into the Focus Immunity Protocol. It's compact. Password, gap, latch, verb, password. Describe what is here, then act. Gap, name, frame, choose, latch. I'm having the thought that so I will, verb, swing the sentence toward an action. You can run this entire sequence in under 60 seconds, mid-conversation, mid-meeting, mid-heartbeat. Each pass lays myelin on a pathway where cues arrive and you, not your history, assign meaning. Run a live rep now. Think of a hot cue you've faced this week. Feel your breath, extend the exhale, whisper the password, name the cue physically, write 3 frames even if one feels silly. Latch the loudest thought, I'm having the thought that, then turn the sentence with a verb, advance once, stop, close with dignity, loop complete, next, bookmark. Your chest might feel a millimeter wider. That space is not imaginary. It is blood flow and option space. Expect relapse. Old meanings have grooves. When you slip, don't spend attention on prosecution. Use the gentle gait. For the next 3 minutes, I will not insult myself. Then run the smallest possible verb. Open file, type header, ask question. You're not fixing your whole life in one breath. You are protecting the next breath from becoming a courtroom. A tiny whisper for nights when rumination spins, the night latch. Write 1 line in your afterglow note that begins with I'm having the thought that, then write 1 verb for morning. Close the notebook. Put a hand on your chest. Feel the rise and fall. Let the weather pass. The sky will be there at dawn. Breathe 1 last precise breath now. In through the nose 4, hold 4, out through the mouth 6. Feel the cool at the nostrils and the warm at the lips. Notice the pressure at your sit bones, the temperature on your cheeks, the slight weight of your eyelids. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. See the loop ring you've built, now fitted with a small compass for meaning. Cues will keep arriving. You will keep translating with care. Focus becomes not a brittle stance, but a fluent language. You become bilingual in weather and choice. When the next ping hits, you will not beg time to be kinder. You will run the protocol. Password, gap, latch, verb, aim, anchor, advance, close with dignity. Plant a bookmark. Walk away for a minute taller than you arrived. That's not bravado. That's self-trust, earned 1 sentence at a time. You've built a loop, fortified it with fields and gates, and learned to translate hot cues into choices. Now we deal with the hardest interference of all, other people's timelines braided with your own. Attention is social electricity. If you don't route it, it jumps wherever the loudest request lands. Today you'll install boundary architecture, a way to make agreements that protect focus without becoming rigid or cold. Alongside it, you'll add the attention contract, a tiny script that turns vague expectations into clear, time-bounded promises your nervous system can trust. When boundaries are architecture and not arguments, aim, anchor, advance becomes a shared language, not a private rebellion. Begin in the body so your voice can carry calm. Air moves across the inside of your nostrils, cool on the way in, warmer on the way out. The skin along your jaw softens when your teeth unmeet. Shoulders descend by a thumb's width. Your hands register temperature against the surface they touch. You aren't doing this for vibes. You're reclaiming blood for the part of your brain that sequences steps and speaks with steadiness. Boundary architecture has 3 beams you can feel when you lean on them. Map, phrase, proof. Map is your honest picture of who and what pulls on your attention, with the times and channels where pull tends to spike. Phrase is the exact line you will say when the pull arrives, short enough to survive adrenaline. Proof is the behavior that shows you mean your words, timers, callbacks, visible check-ins, so the relationship grows, not erodes. Boundaries fail when they live as wishes. They hold when they live as physics. Watch it in a close-quarters story. In an open-plan office smelling faintly of coffee and disinfectant, Rowan sat near the corridor where everyone paused to think out loud. He was the kind listener, which meant his focus fields kept getting perforated by quick questions. Mapping showed the spikes, 10 to noon and 3 to 5. The phrase he chose was simple: I'm in a 15-minute focus block. I'll swing by at 20. The proof was a visible timer on his desk facing the hallway and a calendar slot named Corridor Catch-Up. The first week, he felt exposed, as if announcing boundaries would label him difficult. The second week, something steadier replaced the fear. Colleagues started collecting small questions for the 20. His work moved forward in clean squares, and his care for people didn't shrink. The architecture carried him, so he didn't have to run debate club at his desk. Pause and sense your own edges. Feel the fabric on your forearms, the slight drag when you shift. Hear the farthest sound you can catch, a fan, traffic, a murmur, then the nearest, your breath touching the back of your throat. Let your gaze widen for 2 seconds, then settle. You're teaching your biology that choice lives here. The attention contract is compact enough to survive heat. It has 4 anchors: scope, signal, when, and what if. Scope says exactly what you're doing or delivering. Signal tells them how to reach you if the building is metaphorically on fire. When sets a time you control. What if describes your backup plan. I'm writing the summary paragraph for the next 12 minutes. If urgent, say read on chat. Otherwise, I'll reply at 1:15. If I slip, I'll send a 1-sentence status by 1:16. Your amygdala relaxes because your future self has been hired in advance. Their amygdala relaxes because they aren't left in fog. In a kitchen that doubled as a home office, Tori and her partner used to ping each other with overlapping needs. Every focus block died from friendly drive-by questions. Tori drafted a contract aloud over coffee. Scope: I'm doing a 3x3 field on the grant intro. Signal: if the dog gets out or a call comes, knock twice and say read. When? I'll be back at 10:50. What if it runs hot, I'll text at 10:51 with the next honest time. The first day she felt self-conscious. By day 4, the house breathed differently. Unexpected calls still arrived, the dog still tested fences, but the low-grade static of maybe interruptions vanished. The loop didn't have to flinch every 30 seconds. Breathe 4 in through the nose, hold 4, 6 out through pursed lips until your shoulders drop. Taste the neutral air. Feel your feet find the floor inside your shoes. These are switches. They are small, and they turn on the room where your words sound like you. You'll add a micro-practice called the 5-word contract so you can protect focus in the wild. When someone approaches mid-loop, you say 5 words that contain all 4 anchors. 15 minutes, red knocks, 2:10. If the moment allows a sentence, you add the scope. Drafting the intro, 15 minutes, red knocks, 2:10, short, human, and specific. The timer becomes your proof. You return at 2:10, not 2:20. This consistency tells your nervous system, we keep promises, which quietly increases your capacity under fire. A science bridge to respect how this works. Unclear boundaries trigger prediction errors. Your brain keeps scanning for what might happen and burns glucose doing it. When you state scope, signal, when and what if, you reduce uncertainty for both nervous systems. The anterior cingulate gets fewer alarms. The prefrontal cortex holds the aim longer. Add a visible proof, and habit learning in the basal ganglia speeds up. This isn't a lecture. It's a way to make your biology a teammate. We need a tool for channels, because not all pings are equal. Use the traffic light channels. Red is the emergency lane, reserved for issues that break safety, integrity, or deadlines within the next hour. Yellow is the coordination lane, important but schedulable. Green is the garden path, ideas and curiosities that belong in your later jar. You assign each channel a color with your team or family, and you stick to it. Red gets through the focus field with the signal you chose. Yellow waits for the next corridor catch-up or people envelope in your focus budget. Green goes to the jar. If someone uses red for a green idea, you don't scold. You redirect with the phrase, and you prove responsiveness at the agreed time. Over weeks, culture shifts, not by decree, but by repetition. Feel the temperature at your cheeks, cool or warm. Let the back of your tongue widen. Listen for the quietest sound, maybe the micro-click in your throat when you swallow. Your body is a metronome you can return to when conversations heat up. Boundary work triggers old narratives, that you must be endlessly available to be kind, that speed equals care, that your worth is measured in replies. Install the respect, reliability reframe. Care is not speed. Care is clarity plus follow-through. When you answer instantly and then fail to deliver because your loop shattered, you teach others to expect speed and accept slippage. When you answer with an attention contract and return on time, you teach others to expect reliability and experience care. Your biology prefers the second because cortisol doesn't have to hover, waiting for the next yank. In a sunlit lab, a senior engineer named Howe kept absorbing quick reviews because he was the fastest thinker in the room. His precision envelope evaporated by noon, resentment grew. He mapped the spikes, wrote a phrase, and selected a proof, a daily open review window at 3:30 with a rolling list on a shared board. The contract he DM'd was tight, heads down on the perf fix until 1. If red, ping me R, otherwise add to the 3:30 review board and I'll clear it then. If I slip, I'll update by 1:05. The first week brought pushback from a colleague who translated boundaries as rejection. Howe didn't debate meaning in the hallway. He ran the identity line, "You are the awareness, not the emotion," and repeated the phrase with warmth, then proved it by showing up at 3:30, present and unhurried. 2 weeks later, the reviews were faster and less fraught because everyone arrived prepared. The edge in the room softened. Focus turned from a private struggle into shared craft. Check your jaw, let it hang a millimeter looser. Sense the weight of your thighs on the chair. Feel air brush the bridge of your nose. You're making space for a voice that doesn't wobble when you ask for what you need. There's a saboteur you'll catch when you start holding your architecture, the micro-flinch. You state a boundary and then leak it by adding an escape hatch. I'll get it by 2, unless I mean I could do earlier if the microflinch bloats ambiguity and invites renegotiation. Train the clean line. Speak one sentence, then stop. If the other person asks to renegotiate, you choose deliberately. If you adjust, you restate the contract with a new when and a new proof. You keep your words slender and your breath long. This doesn't make you stern, it makes you reliable. Now wire this into muscle with a drill called 2-minute boundary builder. Take one relationship that tends to puncture your focus field. Write a single map line, when and how they usually pull. Compose a 5 to 8 word phrase you can say under pressure. Pick a proof that fits their world, a visible timer, a calendar slot, a short check-in. Stand up, breathe 4-4-6, and practice saying the phrase twice out loud. Set a reminder to use it in the next 3 days. After you do, write an afterglow note. What you said, how your body felt, what you'll tweak. You're not trying to become untouchable. You're building a bridge that holds weight. We'll add the social anchor so your loop withstands meetings. Pick one sensation you can feel in any conversation without getting weird. The pressure of your feet in shoes, the cool ring of a mug, the contact of your forearm against the chair. In the moment you set a boundary or hold a pause, touch that anchor with attention. The body steadies the voice. The voice steadies the room. Your RAS tags the stance and retrieves it next time without drama. In a glass-walled meeting room, Yara faced a lead who liked to decide in the room and assign work with implicit timelines. Yara's brain would flare, her hands would write commitments she didn't own, and the night would vanish. She came in with a contract. When the lead said, "Let S have the dashboard by Monday," Yara breathed, felt her feet, and said, "Scope is clear. I'm in a precision block for the next hour. I'll confirm timelines at 2:10 after I check dependencies. If this is red, say red and I'll adjust." The lead frowned, then nodded. At 2:07, Yara sent a 2-sentence status with a crisp date and one risk. The lead replied, "Works, thanks." That line was not magic. It was an anchor line dropped in a fast river. It held. Breathe 4 in, hold 4-6 out. Feel a small cooling at your cheeks. Notice the line where your shirt meets your shoulder. Listen to the air, a faint hiss. You are the awareness, not the room's momentum. You choose your entry, you choose your exit. Some boundaries require seasons, not minutes. You may need a deep work covenant with your team or family for a recurring block. The covenant is an extended contract, a shared understanding that every Tuesday from 9 to 11 is a red zone focus field for you. Scope is the kind of work you'll do there. Signal is how to reach you for true emergencies. When is on the calendar? What if is the renegotiation process? You launch it with a short note and a first week of perfect proof. After 2 or 3 weeks, it becomes furniture in the day, like a door that always opens at a certain hour. Culture bends toward the reliable pattern. There will be ruptures. Someone will barge in. A manager will ping your red channel with a green idea. Old stories about being difficult will try to run your hands. That's when the cue, meaning gap, and the gentle gate return. Name the cue, the ping, the heat, the buzz in your hands. Frame 3 meanings, choose the constructive one, and run the 5-word contract. Whisper, "For the next 3 minutes, I will not insult myself." Then carry your voice on the exhale. Architecture is not ideology, it's repairable wood. You sand, you reset nails, you keep the shape. To protect your heart while you set lines, install the compassion mirror. Before you speak a boundary, silently state the person's likely good intent. They want to move, they're overloaded, they trust me. Then state your line cleanly. Compassion in your chest softens your face and keeps your tone from sharpening. People hear your clarity when they don't have to defend against your heat. Touch your anchor. Feel the mug ridge, the keyboard home key, the chair's edge. Notice your breaths lengthen on the exhale. Let your gaze widen one more time to the room's edges, then come back to this sentence. You're building physiological courage. Close today by weaving it all. Before your next focus field, send a one-sentence attention contract to one person who often needs you. When the pull arrives, answer with the 5-word contract and a visible proof. If the pull is red, shift with dignity and run aim, anchor, advance on the emergency. If the pull is yellow, park it in the corridor catch-up. If the pull is green, drop it in the later jar with a tag. At the end, write 2 lines in your afterglow note, what boundary you held and what you'll refine. This is not about hardness. It's about stewardship you can feel in your chest. One more breath, exact and kind. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Sense the warmth along your forearms, the weight at your sit bones, the subtle lift at the crown of your head. Whisper the identity cue that keeps everything honest. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the other person's urgency, not the inherited story about what a good teammate or partner does. You are building architecture where care and clarity can live together. The loop loves that house. So will the people who matter. You've learned to defend focus in storms and translate hot cues into action. Now we'll make your loop automatic so it runs before you have time to argue with yourself. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's mismanaged friction. Your brain chooses the path of least resistance, especially under heat. So you'll change the path. Today you'll install 2 frameworks that rewire default behavior at the inch level. The first is friction sculpting, how to raise friction on distraction and lower friction on the smallest wise move. The second is the 2-minute landing strip, how to give every important task a short, obvious runway so your hands know where to land. When you sculpt friction and lay landing strips, aim, anchor, advance becomes reflex, not negotiation. Before we shape anything, step inside the body. Notice air cool against your inner nostrils, warmer on the way out. The shoulders drop a notch when you let the exhale run longer than the inhale. Feel the pressure of the chair under your thighs and the texture at the pads of your fingers. Listen for the farthest sound, HVAC, traffic, a murmur, then the nearest, your own breath. You are returning blood to choice-making circuits. This isn't ceremony, it's wiring. Friction sculpting has 2 moves you can run in 60 seconds. Sand the path and padlock the detour. Sand the path means lowering the number of steps between you and your smallest advance to 1 or 0. Padlock the detour means adding 2 steps of annoyance to your most likely distractions. Your basal ganglia love low-step loops. They do not love puzzles at the start. Under fire, you will follow whichever loop has less friction. You'll choose on purpose which loop wins. Watch it in a story. At 9:03 a.m., Cole opened his laptop to write a 4-paragraph update and accidentally landed inside a news spiral. Old pattern, tab, 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 shame, then a panicked sprint. He set a 1-minute timer to sculpt. Sand the path. He opened the doc to full screen, pasted his aim in the header, and typed the first subheading as a prompt. Padlock the detour. He signed out of the news site and slid the browser behind the dock, so switching apps required a password and a full-screen exit. He placed his phone in a drawer with a sticky that said, AIM, 4-paragraph update. The next 30 minutes weren't heroic, they were quiet. Friction, not willpower, carried him. Pause, feel the temperature at your cheeks. Let your jaw unhook so your teeth don't touch. With the next breath, widen your gaze to include the edges of the room, then gently return to the words. Widening tells your threat detector the horizon is safe. Your hands relax. Choice returns. The 2-minute landing strip gives every task a tiny runway, so there's always a safe place to touch down. A landing strip has 3 elements: an entry box, a first line, and a bookmark. The entry box is the file or physical space you open to, and nothing else. Full screen doc, blank index card, spreadsheet cell, A1. The first line is one sentence that declares the aim or starts the paragraph with shameless simplicity. The bookmark is a bold next at the top, so your future self arrives with instructions. You create landing strips at the end of a session or right before you start one. It's airport lighting for attention. Here's the science bridge you can feel. Your brain's reward circuit prefers starts and finishes. Landing strips multiply starts, close with dignity multiplies finishes. Between them, dopamine stays honest and modest. Add friction on detours and you protect the pattern. This isn't about toughness. It's about architecture that your biology can obey when your mind is noisy. In a dim home office at 7:41 p.m., after a day of meetings, Nia needed to outline a talk. Her attention felt like wet paper. She wanted a win that wouldn't cost tomorrow. Friction sculpting. She placed the talk outline template on her desktop alone, turned on Do Not Disturb until 8:05, and put her phone under a book across the room. Landing strip. Entry box was the outline file, first line promise, 3 tools to hold focus under fire, bookmark next, list 3 anecdotes. She ran a talk glide cycle, 3 minutes on, 45 seconds off twice. At 8:05 she closed with dignity, whispered loop complete, and walked away without the guilt smear. She hadn't finished the talk. She had built a runway she wanted to return to. That feeling is fuel. Check sensation now. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral, maybe a little dry. Feel fabric at your forearms, the slight drag when you shift. Let the exhale lengthen until the back of your neck cools. You're etching safety first into your nervous system so the next move is available. Procrastination often hides as precision. I can't start until I know the perfect structure. Enter the one ugly line, a micro drill that always fits on the landing strip. The rule is this: begin with a sentence you would be embarrassed to publish. The ugliness disarms the amygdala's perfection alarm. Then your prefrontal cortex takes over with edits. If the task isn't writing, the analog is 1 visible inch. Rename 1 file, run 1 query, sketch 1 box. Ugliness and visibility defeat stuckness because they flip the switch from identity to action. You are not proving who you are moving 1 inch. In a humming conference room, a product manager named Kira delayed writing a test plan because it felt ambiguous and political. The landing strip saved her. Entry box, blank doc, full screen, first line, ugly draft, we test 3 flows, we expect users to stall at step 2. Bookmark, next, define success in 1 sentence. She set a 5-minute field sprint, touched her anchor, the mug's warm ridge, and wrote the ugly line. The room didn't change, the hour did. When a stakeholder later demanded a change, she wasn't scrambling, she was editing. Friction and runway made courage cheap. Breathe in through the nose for 4, hold for 4, out through the mouth for 6. Feel the chair, the floor, the weight of your clothes. Hear a tiny sound, maybe the click in your throat as you swallow. These are the bricks you lay across the next 2 minutes. Let's build the practice called the home screen test. If your phone is a launchpad for glitter, you restructure it like a shop you own. Move every distraction app off the first screen and bury it in a folder 3 swipes deep. Place your focus field timer and your later jar capture app on the first row. Add 1 big widget that displays your current RAS bookmark. Now the low step loop leads to your next inch. not to a slot machine. You didn't quit your phone, you drafted it into the loop. The second practice is the two-step browser. You lock yourself into a 2 tabs max world during precision envelopes by using a profile that can't open more than 2 tabs without closing one. If that's not available, you simulate it with a mental rule and a sticky note. 2 tabs, third equals close one. When you catch yourself hovering over the plus sign, you run the distraction bow. Nod to the urge, touch your anchor, whisper, not now, later, jar, and breathe once. Your hands learn the new path faster than your mind believes. Return to the body. Sense the air at your ears, a faint coolness. Let your eyelids weigh a gram more. Feel the back of your ribcage broaden on the inhale. You are the awareness holding the weather, not the weather itself. You are the awareness, not the emotion. There's a high-friction place you might not see, re-entry. You leave a task mid-sentence and return to a blank wall. Landing strips fix that, and so does the 3-word re-entry. At the end of a session, write 3 verbs that describe the very next moves. Cut paragraph 3, sort by date. Ask for quote, place them at the top. When you return, you don't think, you execute. Your brain warms up on action, not on appraisal. In a quiet lab with a hum like a distant beehive, Thomas struggled to resume code after meetings. He'd sit, stare, and open chats. He added 3-word re-entry to his close with dignity. Next session, his fingers moved before doubt woke up. Tiny verbs, big difference. The loop respects verbs because verbs are doors your hands can find in the dark. Add the friction audit once a week, 10 minutes on Friday. You list 3 drains that stole focus, and for each you add 1 grain of friction. Log out, move the icon, set a keyword blocker for 1 term, put the phone charger in another room so you don't pick it up while it's tethered. You also list 3 flows and lower friction. Template ready, dock pinned, headphones coiled within reach. You change the environment before changing your mind. Habit systems beat pep talks. Sensation check. Feel the contact of your feet inside your shoes, heel to toe. Notice any warmth at the cheeks. Loosen the jaw again. Listen for a faint sound beneath the obvious ones and let your shoulders descend a millimeter. This is you creating a pocket of now. A common objection: if I make distraction harder, won't I feel deprived? At first, yes. Deprivation is your reward circuit's way of saying it misses novelty's fireworks. Then something quieter arrives, the feeling of unbroken movement. That feeling is dignity. Dignity is sticky. It becomes its own reward. The science is simple. You're shifting from variable ratio novelty hits to consistent progress hits. Your nervous system calms because the loop stops yanking the wheel. Let's wire it in with the landing strip drill. Pick 1 task you will touch today that matters. Spend exactly 2 minutes setting the entry box, writing the first line, and planting the bookmark. Then run a single 1 ugly line or 1 visible inch. Stop. Say loop complete. The drill costs 3 minutes and repays an hour tomorrow by removing the startup tax. Your future self will feel like someone turned on a runway light in fog. Sometimes procrastination wears grief's clothes. You put off the email because it might close a chapter. You delay the doctor call because you fear the answer. For those, you keep the strip and add the 90-second weather rule. Name the body data, throat tight, eyes sting, breath high, breathe 4-4-6, and pair your first line with a gentle gait promise. For 3 minutes, I won't insult myself. Write 1 plain sentence. Stop, close with dignity. You didn't conquer grief. You honored it while moving 1 inch. Focus is not a denial of feeling. It's a way to carry feeling without dropping your life. In a hallway that smelled faintly of toner and lemon cleaner, a teacher named Ria had avoided an accreditation report for weeks. Each time she sat, her chest tightened and a story rose that said, "You're already behind." She ran the focus password, describe what is here, then act, and named cues, cursor blinking, warm cheeks, buzz in fingers. She sculpted friction, full screen dock, login to the portal pre-entered, and laid a landing strip, first line purpose, show student growth with 3 examples, bookmark next, pull attendance trend. She wrote one ugly line and stopped at 2 minutes on purpose. The floor was blessed. The next morning she returned without dread. The report didn't become easy, it became movable. That difference salvaged a weekend and her self-respect. Breathe 4 in, hold 4, 6 out. Let your gaze widen again to the room's edges, then return. Taste the inside of your mouth. Feel gravity holding your sit bones. Awareness grows tangible when you inventory your senses. The loop plugs into that current. You'll add one more tool, the keystone pair. You anchor a small cue to the start of every focus field so your system slides into the groove without thought. Choose a pair like headphones on right arrow 446, right arrow aim whisper, or mug in left hand right arrow anchor touch right arrow first line. Repeat it until the pair becomes a door you walk through. This is Pavlov for good. When the pair fires, your RAS tags the task, your amygdala quiets by association, and your hands begin the next inch. Bind it all with the 30-second reset for when you drift. Stop typing, saccade sweep left-right left to widen the field, whisper your aim, touch your anchor, reread the last 2 lines, perform one verb. Even mid-collapse, you can re-enter by making the good path the easiest path. You are not forcing, you are arranging. Close today with the 3-switch ritual. Before your next field, flip 3 switches. Environment padlock 1 detour, entry open the landing strip, and embodiment 1 precise 446. Then step in. When the timer chimes, plant a bookmark and close with dignity. Write 2 sentences in your afterglow note. What moved, what's next? Over days, your loop stops feeling like a trick and starts feeling like your native language. Feel your chest soften on the exhale. Let your hands rest heavier. Hear the quiet between sounds. Whisper the identity line that keeps this clean. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the novelty itch, not the story that says you need a perfect plan before a first inch. The runway is lit. The detours are padlocked. Aim, anchor, advance waits like a muscle warmed and ready. When fire comes, you won't bargain. You'll walk the shortest path your hands can find. That path is yours because you placed it there. Pressure with an audience feels different. The body reads eyes like sirens. Your heart climbs into your throat, hands go glossy, and your thoughts sprint ahead to predict disaster. Under the spotlight, presentations, interviews, live demos, difficult conversations, attention wants to flee your body and live in the room's guesses. Today you'll install 2 frameworks so your loop holds when eyes land on you. The first is the spotlight protocol, a way to aim your attention in public so it fuels performance instead of panic. The second is the field notes debrief, a 5-minute after action that converts adrenaline into learning so tomorrow's focus starts stronger than today's. With these, aim, anchor, advance becomes social. You keep your center while serving the room. Start with your body so the voice you need can show up. Air cool at the nostrils, warmer leaving. Let your jaw unhook by a millimeter. Feel the weight at your sit bones, the steady pull of gravity like a hand on your hips. Listen for the farthest sound, HVAC street noise, then the nearest, your own breath touching the back of your throat. 1-4-4-6 breath. You're stealing back blood for the prefrontal cortex. You are not calming to look calm, you are calming to choose. The spotlight protocol, has 3 rails that run underneath whatever you're doing: beam, bridge, beat. Beam is where you point your attention on purpose. Bridge is the first sentence that connects you to your listener. Beat is the body rhythm that keeps your physiology slow enough for your mind to think. Beam keeps you from staring at judgment. Bridge moves you from performance to service. Beat keeps your nervous system from outrunning your mouth. Beam is a narrow cone. Under fire, you aim it at task and person, not at self and threat. In practice, that means you decide in advance: my beam will rest on the one person who needs this most and on the next concrete action. If you feel eyes as knives, you shift the beam to a forehead, a laptop hinge, the rim of a glass, anything stable. Your RAS will obey the beam and dampen the irrelevant. Bridge is a sentence that declares purpose and creates an alliance. Here's the one thing I want to make easier for you in the next 5 minutes. Or, if I do my job right, you'll leave with a clear next step. Bridges tame ambiguity. The room leans toward you because you offered a road. Beat is a breath and a cadence. You pick one beat you can feel, inhale through the nose, a silent count of 4 before your first line, palms at your sides, feet solid. You choose one anchor sensation you can touch without fuss: the cool ridge of a glass, the even pressure of both feet, the pad of your thumb against a clicker. You keep coming back to the beat between sentences. The beat keeps your words from galloping. Gallops drop IQ. Watch it work. In a glass conference room that reflected everyone's faces like a mosaic, Ren had to demo a product with an unstable Wi-Fi and a VP who liked to interrupt. Old pattern: speed up, overpromise, and leave with a bright pain under the ribs. Ren installed the protocol. Beam, the skeptical stakeholder with folded arms, and the next tiny action: show the loading time improvement. Bridge: if I do my job today, you'll see why your support team will get 10 minutes back on every ticket. Beat, feet planted, inhale for 4 before the first line, thumb pressed to the clicker's textured button. When the VP jumped in, Ren touched the beat, labeled the cue voice, heat in cheeks, fingers buzzing, and used the cue meaning gap to frame the interruption as engagement. He answered the question with one verb, watch, and returned to the beam. The demo stuttered once. Ren breathed, named it, and ran the 90-second weather rule in the background while a backup video played. The meeting ended with 2 specific next steps, and without the usual sprinting heart aftertaste. The loop held in public. Pause and sense your own edges. Temperature at your cheeks. The slight stretch across your lower ribs as you inhale. Let your exhale be 6 beats long and notice the back of your neck cool. You are the awareness, not the audience's weather. Here's a second scene where spotlight heat arrives sideways. In a hiring panel, Ara answered a question, watched a board member frown, and felt the old story slam in: you're losing them. Beam, bridge, beat. Beam to the listener most open, and to the next inch answer with 1 example, not 5. Bridge by naming value: let me give you a concrete win from last quarter. Beat with a silent 4-4 count and left toes pressed into the shoe. The frown remained, the room stayed with her. That's the truth of the spotlight. You can't smooth every face. You can keep your hands. The science bridge is small and sufficient. Under scrutiny, micro-threat signals pull blood from the prefrontal cortex, shrinking working memory. Your breath cadence and chosen anchor feed the parasympathetic system and widen the bandwidth back. Naming a purpose recruits your anterior cingulate to arbitrate attention. A clear beam gives your RAS a tag to highlight and your amygdala fewer shadows to chase. None of this requires perfection. It requires rails. Add a micro tool that pairs with spotlight, the 3 lights check. Before you speak, flip 3 lights in under 5 seconds. Purpose light: what you're giving, listener light, who needs it, next verb light, what you want them to do. Whisper the verb to yourself, decide, try, watch, confirm. Verbs are doors, your mouth walks through them. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral, maybe a trace of coffee. Feel the fabric along your forearms. Listen for a sound no one else is tracking. Your body gives you a floor, stand on it. You also need a way to keep attention during interruptions that carry status weight. Use the acknowledge, aim, advance line. Acknowledge what you heard in a neutral phrase. You're asking about risk. Aim back at your beam. The risk reduces by X when we do Y. Advance 1 square. Watch this 10-second clip. You refuse the tug-of-war. You guide the rope around a peg you planted before you walked in. In a fluorescent classroom, a teacher named Rami faced a parent night with 15 conversations in 90 minutes. His attention used to fray by the fifth family. He would promise follow-ups he couldn't track. He ran spotlight at microscale. Beam, the student's name card and the parent's eyes. Bridge, my aim in 5 minutes is to give you one thing that's working and one we're strengthening. Beat, both feet down, one breath before answering. He finished each 5 with a field notes debrief in 10 seconds on a card, what he promised, by when. At the end of the night, his voice was tired but not shredded. He had receipts for his own attention. Field notes debrief is where you turn adrenaline into architecture. After any high heat moment, you run a 5-minute loop so tomorrow is cheaper. The debrief has 4 pieces, all short. What happened, factual. What I felt, body data. What worked, repeat. What to refine, 1 verb. It's not therapy, it's engineering with kindness. You write 2 lines in your afterglow note so your future self doesn't start from fog. A quick example. Happened, demo froze at slide 6. Answered questions, played backup. Felt, heat at cheeks, fingers buzzing, breath high, settled after 90 seconds. Worked, bridge sentence landed. Acknowledge, aim, advance kept us moving. Refine, preload offline video. Plant a clearer next step verb at the end. That's it. When the next demo day arrives, your hands open the right file without drama because you wired the path. Pause, bring attention to the soles of your feet. Spread your toes inside your shoes. Hear the tiny click as you swallow. Let your eyelids weigh a gram more. You're laying a runway for public focus. There's a trait that separates clean public work from messy, the pause dividend. You claim 2 silent beats after a question. Most people pay panic tax. You earn a dividend. You breathe once, feel your anchor, and let your prefrontal cortex retrieve what you tagged with the 3 lights check. The room reads silence as confidence when your face is soft. Panic reads as speed. You pick dividends over tax. Under spotlight, criticism stings. You'll add the stone, stream, reframe. Stone is the one point you will not move on. Integrity, safety, a boundary. Stream is everything else. Format, order, font, phrasing flowing around the stone. When feedback hits, you silently tag stone or stream. If stream, you run verb switch and ask for the next action. Cut slide 3. If stone, you state the boundary with your social anchor engaged. We won't publish numbers we can't verify. We can share a range today and the audited figure Friday. Your voice steadies because your feet feel the floor. In a startup all hands, Myra presented a roadmap. A senior engineer cut in, "This is vapor until we ship." Heat shot up her neck. Old story said, "You're not credible." Stone, stream. Stone, don't commit to dates the team can't hit. Stream, reorder, acknowledge, aim, advance. You're pointing at delivery. The stone is honest dates. Stream is order, will pull phase 2 behind phase 1. Watch how that unlocks testing capacity next week. The jab lost oxygen. Focus, return to the work. Breathe a precise 4-4-6. Feel the chair, the skin at your cheeks, the even weight of your hands. You are the awareness, not the room's surges. The spotlight also appears in intimate rooms. In a difficult one, attention wants to shrink, to defend, to run. Bring a softer tool, the mirror map move. Mirror the other person's last sentence in your own words so their amygdala settles. Map the problem as process, not identity. Move 1 inch with a verb. You're saying you felt left out of decisions. The map I see is notification timing. Let's move 1 inch, add you to the sprint review, and send a mid-sprint note this Thursday. You didn't solve all of belonging. You moved the 1 square that keeps attention from blading. Your physiology needs redundancy in public. Add the pocket anchor, a smooth stone, ring, or coin you can touch. When a wave hits, your thumb finds the object, you press for 1 exhale, beam to your person, and speak the verb. Tiny, invisible, reliable. The brain loves handles. Sensation check. Taste, neutral, maybe mint. Temperature at your forearms, cool. The back of your neck loosens when the exhale lengthens. The room widens when your eyes do. Return. A final tool for spotlight days, the 2 closing rule. You make 2 closes. Close 1 is the moment you deliver your final line with a clear next action and a when. Close 2 is the moment you close with dignity after the room empties. You whisper what worked and the next bookmark. You stretch your hands, drink water, walk to a window. Without close 2, adrenaline leaks for an hour and your next field begins shaky. With it, your biology understands the show is over and recovery begins. You respect the animal that carried you. In a small auditorium, Layla finished a talk, forgot close 2, and spent an hour doom scrolling in the green room. The next month she touched the pocket anchor, took 3 slow nasal breaths backstage, and ran field notes debrief for 5 minutes before checking her phone. The difference was night and day. The aftertaste was clean, her calendar didn't tilt. Now wire spotlight plus debrief into habit with the rehearsal ladder. Step 1. Solo rehearsal with full rails, beam, bridge, beat spoken out loud for 2 minutes. Step 2. 1 friendly face, practice to a colleague with a pocket anchor. Step 3. Room rehearsal, stand where you'll stand, touch what you'll touch, breathe the actual air. Each rung teaches your nervous system the room before the room happens. Your amygdala calms when novelty drops. This isn't about acting. It's about familiarity as medicine. Let's run a live micro-rep. Think of a near-future spotlight. A status update, a feedback conversation, a call. Whisper your bridge. If I do my job, you'll leave with X. Choose your beam, the person who needs this and the next verb. Pick your beat, feet, breath, thumb. Breathe 4-4-6. Say your first line under your breath. Press the pocket anchor for 1 exhale. There, your nervous system just stored a template. There will be days when you wobble. You'll speak too fast, forget a slide, take a jab personally, or feel your hands lose warmth. The weather rule lives here too. Name it, storm of heat, tingling hands, breath high. Whisper the gentle gate. For the next 3 minutes, I will not insult myself. Run, acknowledge, aim, advance to get off the ice patch. After, run field notes debrief with more compassion than critique. You are not a show, you are a steward, you refine. A last story in a different light. In a quiet hospice room, Nora sat to tell her mother she had to return to work in another city. No slides, no demo, the highest kind of spotlight, love under time pressure. Her chest hurt, her throat narrowed. She ran a softer version of spotlight. Beam, her mother's eyes and her own breath. Bridge, I want to tell you something hard with love. Beat, her right hand wrapped around her left thumb, 1-4-4-6 breath before each sentence. Mirror map move, mirror feelings, map logistics, move 1 inch, I'll fly back Friday. The room didn't become easy, it became human. The loop is not only for boardrooms, it is for any place where attention and care have to live in the same body. Feel your body now, the weight of your clothes at the shoulders, the temperature at your cheeks, the steadiness under your feet. Hear the hum, let your gaze widen. Whisper the identity line that keeps all of this honest. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the room's faces, not the one frown your brain keeps enlarging. You can be warm and clear at once. You can be brave quietly. Close by planting tomorrow's bookmark. Write one sentence you'll say to bridge your next spotlight, one verb you want the room to do, and one sensory beat you'll touch. Place a pocket anchor where your thumb will find it. When the moment arrives, you won't argue with yourself. You'll walk the rails you laid, beam, bridge, beat. Then you'll debrief, close with dignity, and leave the room with your attention intact. That is power under fire. Not loud, not brittle, just steady. Your loop works in the fire and under eyes. Now you'll increase raw capacity so your loop has more fuel to burn. Focus is not only a psychological skill, it's a metabolic rhythm. When inputs are off, light, movement, hydration, ambient sound, your amygdala runs hot and your prefrontal cortex runs lean. You don't need a new personality. You need better inputs and a lighter load on working memory. Today you'll install two frameworks. The first is the Focus Fuel Circuit, a body-based sequence that takes 3 minutes and recharges executive function without leaving your desk. The second is the Sidecar Brain, a method to move tasks, worries, and half-thoughts out of your head and into a simple external loop so your working memory stops juggling knives. With fuel and a sidecar, aim, anchor, advance turns from a fragile trick into a durable engine. Start in the body so you can feel the dials we're going to turn. Air enters cool at the nostrils and leaves warmer. Let your jaw unhook so the teeth don't touch. Shoulders drop a thumb's width on the exhale. Notice the temperature on your forearms where fabric rests. Listen for the farthest sound, a fan, traffic, a distant voice, and then the nearest, the quiet brush of your own breath along the back of your throat. You aren't chasing vibes. You're redirecting blood to the part of the brain that sequences steps. This is how focus pays rent. The Focus Fuel Circuit runs on 3 rails: view, move, sip, and takes less than 3 minutes. View widens your visual field for 20 to 30 seconds. Move wakes major muscle groups with small, controlled contractions. Sip restores hydration with a deliberate swallow. View tells your threat detector that the horizon is safe. Move raises a clean trickle of catecholamines, so your energy is available instead of jittery. Sip gives your blood volume and attention a nudge back towards steady. You can do it in a chair, in a corridor, at a kitchen counter. No special clothes, no gym voice, no drama. Circuit once before a focus field, again mid-afternoon when the world turns to molasses, again before a difficult conversation. Watch it in a story. At 2:41 p.m., Max sat in a room that smelled faintly of printer toner and dust. His eyes felt sandy, his brain wanted to open 6 tabs and call it research. He whispered an aim, outlined 3 beats for a pitch. Anchor, the cool rim of a glass under his right thumb. Advance, type 1 ugly sentence. He felt the stall. Old pattern, sugar, then guilt, then a scatter of half-starts. He ran the Focus Fuel Circuit instead. View, he looked out the window and traced the farthest edge he could see, left to right, 3 slow passes, eyes soft, letting periphery come online. Move, seated, he pressed both feet into the floor for a count of 8 twice, then squeezed shoulder blades gently together and released, then rolled his neck in half moons. Sip, 2 slow swallows of water, feeling the cool path down the throat. 90 seconds. He felt his face cool and his hands steady. He returned to aim, touched his anchor, and typed. The outline arrived like stepping stones instead of fog. No miracle, just physics. Pause and inventory yourself. The back of your neck registers a thin coolness. Your eyelids weigh a gram more as you let the gaze widen. Your chest softens a little when the exhale runs longer than the inhale. Your feet are real objects with weight. Every sensory report is a vote for the prefrontal cortex. Why this works: widening the gaze engages the superior colliculus and dampens micro-threat scanning. Your amygdala relaxes when the world seems wide instead of tunnel-shaped. Gentle contractions recruit the sympathetic system enough to elevate alertness without the panic spike. Hydration affects blood volume. Small sips help sustained focus more than periodic gulps. None of this requires memorizing anatomy. What matters is that you can feel the dial turn from hunted to here. Now the sidecar brain. Your working memory can hold only a handful of items at once before it starts dropping them. Every don't forget burns glucose, and under pressure those loops shout. The sidecar moves open loops out of your head and into a tiny pipeline so your prefrontal cortex can actually do its job. The method has 3 moves: capture, park, pinpoint, and an optional 4th, pulse, when you need a 5-minute catch-up. Capture is a frictionless dump of whatever is tugging at attention: tasks, phrases, worries, names, ideas. Park is where you place each item into one of 3 places: now, today, next, this week, or next, later. Pinpoint is the verb you attach to any now item so hands know where to land. Pulse is a fast daily sweep to keep the sidecar honest. No apps required. A sticky note, a paper card, a single doc work fine. Tools don't make the brain external, behavior does. See it as a scene. In a glass box of a meeting room, Samira's team spitballed feature requests while 2 executives floated in and out. Her brain used to dim here, overwhelmed by crosstalk. She opened a single doc titled Sidecar, whispered her focus password, describe what is here, then act, and captured in raw lines. Ask data for churn by cohort. Q4 PR quote, ship logs weirdness. Ravi wants dark mode. Why did inbox filter fail? Send Kareem travel dates. Park now got 2, send Kareem dates. Ask data for churn by cohort. Next got ship logs and inbox filter. Nest got dark mode and PR quote. Pinpoint she turned send Kareem travel dates into confirm travel dates Fry Sun. Ask hotel preferences. Ask data became email Joe, need churn by cohort by Thur. When the meeting broke, she ran a 3-minute pulse, sent the 2 now items, and walked to her desk with a brain that felt 8 pounds lighter. Focus survived the room because working memory wasn't doing unpaid labor. Check your senses again. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral, maybe a trace of coffee. Feel the fabric along your forearms, a soft drag when you shift. Hear a faint hum you weren't noticing a minute ago. Let your jaw unhook. Let your tongue rest wider. This is the sound of choice returning. You can wire Sidecar to your loop with a micro-practice called 1-minute sweep. Before each focus field, you open your Sidecar, capture 10 seconds, park for 20, pinpoint 1 now item with a small verb, and then you close the dock. The point is not to plan your life. It's to empty the sink so the dish you're washing doesn't sit under greasy water. After the field, you use pulse for 60 seconds. Mark what moved, move next, if needed. Plant 1 bookmark for tomorrow. Your future self stops dreading re-entry because the room is tidy. There's a trap you'll see: Sidecar inflation, turning a simple capture into a scrolling guilt scroll. Counter it with the honest flaw. 5 lines max in capture unless your timer says otherwise. If something screams, you don't add eloquent paragraphs. You pinpoint the smallest verb and either run it or park it with a when. The loop doesn't need an epic, it needs a handle. In a dim apartment where the refrigerator buzzed louder at night, Javier used to wait until 10:30 p.m. to battle his calendar and inbox in a haze of self-reproach. He added Sidecar Brain, old school on a stack of index cards, capture throughout the day in messy ink, park in 3 mini stacks on his desk, pinpoint on the now card each evening with 3 verbs, pulse for 3 minutes right after dinner, not at midnight. He slept without the mental buzzsaw. The next morning, his 3x3 focus field started on rails because his head wasn't playing archivist and machinist at the same time. Breathe a precise 4-4-6. Feel the back of your ribcage widen on the inhale, the front soften on the exhale. Notice the temperature at your cheeks. Let your eyelids weigh a gram more. You are the awareness noticing signals. You are not the signals. Fuel plus Sidecar changes the texture of stress. When the afternoon fog rolls in, you don't argue with it. You run, view, move, sip. When anxiety hurls sticky thoughts, don't forget, what if you're behind? You don't resolve the entire future. You capture, park, pinpoint. Underneath, the identity line holds everything together. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Let's add a story where fuel meets meaning. In a fluorescent lab, Anu's grant revision was due at midnight. At 8:12 p.m., her vision tunneled and heat gathered at her cheeks. Old pattern, a burst of caffeine, then doom scrolling disguised as research. She ran the circuit at the window overlooking a dark courtyard, soft eyes sweeping the horizon, 2 rounds of foot press and shoulder squeeze, 2 slow sips. She felt the tunnel widen. Sidecar caught the gnats, format references, acknowledge reviewer 2's point, run spell check, add figure caption, email mentor by 10. Park sorted now into 2 verbs, add figure caption, email mentor, and next into the rest. She whispered an aim caption in 3 minutes, touched her anchor, the ceramic mug's warm ridge, and advanced 1 line, figure 3 shows. When panic returned, she ran the 90-second weather rule with the caption as her umbrella. The email went at 9:58. Midnight came with a steady heart. She wasn't a new person. She was the same person with levers. Your environment can add or subtract effort from every move. That's why we pair fuel and Sidecar with a tiny layer called input hygiene. You don't need a monk cell, you need a few kindnesses. Light, if you can, step into daylight or a bright window for 30 seconds before a field. Movement, 2 minutes of slow stairs or a hallway walk can do what a second coffee can't. Sound, pick 1 track without lyrics you can loop. The brain loves predictable noise. Hydration, place water within reach so sip is 1 step, not 5. None of these are rules, they are rails. When life won't let you do all, do 1. The nervous system counts every vote. Pause and feel your feet inside your shoes, heel through the ball. Spread the toes without anyone seeing. Sense the gentle weight of gravity on your hips. Listen for the whisper your breath makes at the nostrils. You're telling your brain, I live here. There's a cognitive drain we haven't named, invisible promises. I'll circle back. I'll look into it. We should grab coffee. Each is a tab open in your head. Use the promise receipt. When such a sentence leaves your mouth, you immediately sidecar it with a verb and a when, or you cancel it with a clean line. Let me be honest, this month I can't give it attention. Can we revisit in November? Honesty is a fuel. It frees wattage for real aim. In an office with glass walls that echoed footsteps, Priyanka carried 10 invisible promises like heavy coins in her pockets. She started issuing receipts. In the meeting, action, send draft by Friday 4, adding to Sidecar now. She typed the verb in front of the room. The first week, she feared people would read her as rigid. They read her as trustworthy. Her evenings felt roomier. Focus loves receipts. A science bridge to respect the small. Working memory is a narrow hallway. Fuel plus Sidecar widens it not by magic, but by reducing congestion. View lowers threat scanning, move and sip tickle catecholamines without flooding, capture reduces load, pinpoint gives motor cortex a job it understands. Dopamine shifts from novelty to progress. Your RAS tags verbs instead of alarms. This isn't a personality transplant, it's maintenance. Now a drill that fuses the two frameworks in 90 seconds. It's called 90-second refuel and empty. Stand or sit tall, view sweep left to right 3 times. Move, press feet, roll shoulders once, squeeze glutes for a quiet 8 count, unclench jaw, sip twice. Then Sidecar, capture 5 lines, park now next nest, pinpoint 1 verb. Whisper your aim, touch your anchor, perform the verb for 30 seconds. Stop, close with dignity. The entire drill fits between calendar blocks. It buys back a brain. You may worry that all this structure will make you brittle. Notice how many of these moves are forgiving. Circuit can be done with a window, a hallway, or a blank wall imagined as a horizon. Sidecar can live in a dock, on a card, or in your notes app. Promise receipts can be spoken, typed, or drawn as a dot next to a name. The principle is constant. Lower friction for the next wise inch, raise friction for glitter, empty the head, refill the body. Taste the inside of your mouth, sip if you can, and feel the cool path down the throat. Sense the temperature along your cheeks. Hear a far sound, then the near sound of your breath. Let your shoulders descend a millimeter. You're building a state where the loop can attach without begging. Another story for the road. In a store back office that smelled like cardboard and citrus cleaner, a shift lead named B had to reorder supplies while helping a new hire and fielding a manager's texts. Her attention used to splinter until she snapped at someone and called it a bad day. She taped a card to the wall that read Fuel plus Sidecar. Before starting the reorder, she looked out through the stockroom's small window to the parking lot, soft eyes tracing car roofs to the horizon, pressed both feet into the floor for 8 counts, and took 2 slow sips. Then she captured, order small bags, bleach, gloves, train return flow step 2, ask manager about promo signage, new hire needs code. Park made now the order and the code. Pinpoint made order gloves 3 boxes, text code to J. 3 minutes later, the world felt less sharp. She answered a customer warmly, sent the code, placed the order, and wrote 1 bookmark. Next, teach step 2 at 4:10. The day wasn't quiet. She was. If the heart pinches right now, regret over wasted hours, fatigue that tastes metallic, let the weather rule hold you. Name the signals, heaviness behind eyes, heat at cheeks, tight throat. Breathe 4-4-6 once. Then run the smallest version of the circuit and the Sidecar together. 1 horizon sweep, 1 shoulder roll, 1 sip. Write 3 words in capture, circle 1 as now, add 1 verb, that's enough. The floor counts. You don't build dignity with heroic pushes, you build it with timely inches. Close by stitching this into your day. Before your next focus field, run the focus fuel circuit, view, move, sip. Then do a 1-minute sweep in your Sidecar. Whisper your aim, touch your anchor, perform 1 verb. When the timer chimes, plant a bookmark and pulse 30 seconds. If the afternoon fog returns, run 90-second refuel and empty. If invisible promises appear, issue a promise receipt or cancel with kindness. This isn't about squeezing more out of yourself. It's about removing the sand from your gears. 1 last breath, precise and kind. In through the nose for 4, hold for 4, out through the mouth for 6. Feel the chair under your thighs, the weight of your clothes, the steady pull of gravity. Whisper the identity line that lets all of this stick. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the sand in the gears, not the old story that says you should suffer to count. Inputs clean, Sidecar rolling, loop ready. When pressure arrives, you won't chase fireworks. You'll turn dials and move inches. And you'll like yourself when you're done. There are weeks when your best systems feel like scaffolding in a windstorm. A crisis at home, a launch wobbling, a body that won't cooperate, and the neat lines of aim, anchor, advance look like chalk in rain. You don't need a new self on those days. You need a way to turn disruption into direction. Today you'll install 2 frameworks that harden your loop against chaos without making you hard. The first is the breaker box, a fast triage for overload that lets you shut off the right circuits and keep the lights you need. The second is the Setback Alchemy Cycle, a way to convert misses and broken streaks into fuel within 20 minutes, not 20 days. With a breaker and a cycle, you will stop treating turbulence as a verdict and start treating it as whether the loop was built to fly through. Put your body on the ground first. Air cool at the nostrils on the way in, warmer on the way out. Let your teeth unmeet so your jaw hangs a millimeter looser. Feel the chair under your thighs, the even pressure like a calm hand. Listen for the farthest sound, a hallway murmur, traffic, and then the nearest, the hush of breath brushing the soft palate. 1-4-4-6 breath to steal back blood from alarm to choice. You aren't striving for zen. You're giving the prefrontal cortex glucose and room. The breaker box is a wall panel for your day. When the load spikes, you don't yank every plug. You decide which circuits to cut and which to protect. The panel has 3 switches you can flip in under a minute. Narrow, nudge, notify. Narrow means you collapse your scope to the one deliverable that prevents cascading failure, even if it offends your perfectionist. Nudge means you choose the smallest visible action that changes the system state in your favor. Notify means you send one honest message that resets expectations before panic writes your story for you. That's it. Flip, flip, flip. Your loop doesn't drown, it reconfigures. Watch it work. On a grey Wednesday at 11:06 a.m., your child's school calls, your deck is due at 1 and your manager pings, quick sync. Heat flares at the collarbones, breath jumps high. Old pattern, flail, apologize to everyone, do nothing well. You touch the panel. Narrow. Deck must contain 3 accurate numbers and 1 clear recommendation. Nudge, paste the numbers and write the recommendation line in bold now. Notify, on the way to school pickup at 11:30, updated deck with core numbers coming at 12:20, full polish at 4, red, call me. You just created a runway where a tailspin wanted to live. When you return, the deck isn't pretty, it's dependable. The day is not ruined, it is routed. Pause and check sensation. The skin along your forearms registers fabric, a faint drag. Your tongue rests wider when you let the exhale lengthen. Temperature at your cheeks shifts a degree cooler. These are switches, not poetry. Each tells your nervous system, we're here. Chaos doesn't only slam from the outside. Sometimes you break your own streaks. You promised yourself a field at 9 and slipped into glitter. You raised your voice at someone you love. You ghosted the notebook where the afterglow note lives. This is where the Setback Alchemy Cycle pays rent. It has 4 turns: notice, name, needle, next, and it runs in under 20 minutes. Notice means you catch the fracture without staging a trial. Name means you describe what actually happened in body and behavior, not in character slurs. Needle means you stitch one thread of learning through the rip with a tiny experiment. Next means you plant a bookmark that makes re-entry cheaper within 24 hours. Cycle once, then leave the room with dignity. You don't earn redemption by self-flagellation. You earn it by running the machine again, 1 inch wiser. You'll see it in a kitchen at 10:41 p.m., blue light washing the counter. Matteo had promised himself no screens after 10. He lost 40 minutes to a feed, felt the stale ache of self-betrayal, and was about to write a paragraph of insults disguised as discipline. He ran alchemy instead. Notice, I scrolled from 10:01 to 10:41. Name, buzzing fingers, dry eyes, jaw tight. Story that I blew the day, skipped the landing strip for tomorrow. Needle, a tiny experiment. Phone charges in hallway. 3-word re-entry written now. Next, he wrote cut para 2, swap chart Kyla, email Joe at the top of tomorrow's doc, and put the phone on the hallway shelf. 5 minutes, no sermon. At 10:49 he turned off the kitchen light. The win wasn't monkhood. It was a cheap re-entry he actually used. Breathe once with precision. 4 in through the nose, hold 4, 6 out through the mouth. Feel the back of your neck cool, shoulder blades slide down a notch, hands grow heavier and warmer. You are the awareness that can lay track under a rolling train. Let's build the breaker box into muscle with a drill called 1-minute trip check. When you feel the load spike, you whisper breaker, then write 3 lines in a scrap or at the top of your doc. Line 1, narrow equals 1 deliverable. Line 2, nudge equals 1 verb you can do in 60 seconds. Line 3, notify equals 1 sentence 1 time. Then you do the nudge, send the notify, and you return to the narrowed aim inside a 3x3 field. The point isn't elegance. It's traction. Your nervous system calms when it sees your hands move the circuit from chaos to choice. Chaos has a way of reviving old meanings. If you were better, you wouldn't need a breaker. Use the language latch and the verb switch like guardrails. I'm having the thought that only weak people narrows, so I will paste the 3 numbers and send the time. Strength is conserving the generator for the hospital, not lighting every neon sign on the block. Feel the room again. The air tastes like nothing, maybe a hint of coffee or dust. Your eyelids weigh a gram more when you widen the gaze to the edges. Your feet are objects with weight pressing into the floor. There is a hum underneath the day you can hear when you quiet for 1 breath. This is the platform you launch from. Setback Alchemy needs a story with teeth. In a bright startup office, Rana had kept a 22-day streak of morning fields and then lost a whole week to an on-call rotation. When she tried to return, shame snarled and she made the streak sacred. Streaks aren't sacred, values are. She ran the cycle at a coffee table. Notice, 7 mornings missed. Name, stiff jaw, tired eyes, old story that streaks prove worth. Needle experiment, move the field to lunch for the next 3 days. Keystone pair equals headphones on 446, aim whisper. Next, she planted a RAS bookmark at the top of her dock. Next, outline 2 bullets and set a calendar nudge named Lunch Field 15. On day 1 the field happened in a hallway, on day 2 in a parked car, on day 3 at her desk. The streak was gone, fidelity returned. She didn't become lax. She became durable. There's a quieter fracture, when big feelings arrive because the stakes matter. You miss a goal, you're passed over, a draft comes back blood red. Your loop can hold those too, but the breaker you flip is different. You flip the grief circuit. 3 moves, sit, see, send. Sit means you give 90 seconds to the body unedited. Heat in cheeks, stone in throat, your eyes sting and water, hands buzz, and you breathe 446 while naming weather. See means you write 2 sentences of present data and 1 sentence of scope. What this is, what it is. Send is 1 respectful message to a person you owe clarity, or to yourself in a log. Loop complete, next, smallest verb, grief transmits. When you send signal, not static, your attention doesn't collapse into a black hole. In a glass-walled room at dusk, Anya learned a grant had gone to another lab. She wanted to muscle through work to prove resilience. Instead, she sat, felt the heat, let her breath lengthen and saw present data, Reviewers praised clarity. Funding went to a different method. Scope. This is about this cycle, not my capacity. She sent a 2-sentence update to her mentor and 1 line to herself. Next, schedule 30 minutes to strengthen methods section Friday. She walked home sad and unbroken. That night she slept. The loop was not a denial of feeling, it was a container. Check in again. Taste inside your mouth. Sip water if you can and feel the cool path touch the throat. Notice the weight of your clothes on the shoulders, the slight grip at the elbow. Hear a small sound, a mouse click, a distant door, your breaths whisper, and let your face soften. It's from this texture of now that you install the next inch. Failures often breed future failure rituals. Avoidance, overwork, hedging. Break them with the 2-mistake rule. You accept 1 miss as weather, you design against the second. The design is small. You replace the landing strip and set a single attention contract with yourself or 1 other person. If I skip the 3 p.m. field, I'll run a 5-minute version at 5:10 and plant tomorrow's bookmark. Not punishment, insurance. The basal ganglia love predictability. You make repair predictable. Let's add a scene where the breaker and alchemy meet a relationship. In a small living room at 8:17 p.m., a partner says, "You never listen when I'm upset," and your chest hardens. The old groove is debate or retreat, both expensive. You flip breaker. Narrow, reflect back 1 sentence, ask 1 clarifying question. Nudge, repeat their last phrase and breathe once. Notify, I want to give this focus. I'm setting my phone in the kitchen for 10 minutes. Then you run alchemy in the background on your own spike. Notice, pulse in throat. Name, storm of defensiveness. Needle, experiment, mirror, map, move even if clumsy. Next, write 1 afterglow line later. What worked, what to refine. The conversation becomes a repair, not a verdict. Your work tomorrow is better because you didn't burn down the house tonight. Science bridge, short and sharp. When you narrow, you reduce ambiguity, which lowers prediction error and cortisol. When you nudge a system state, even tiny, dopamine marks progress and opens the door for more prefrontal work. When you notify, you reduce social uncertainty, which calms 2 nervous systems. In alchemy, notice name recruits meta-awareness and interrupts shame loops. Needle creates a tiny, testable behavior that the basal ganglia can encode. Next hands your RAS a tag so re-entry costs less. You don't need to recite this. You will feel it. A click inside the chest where chaos had been chewing. Pause, put a hand against your sternum if you can. Feel the warmth of your palm, the slow rise on the inhale, the weight of your hand on the exhale. Let your shoulders settle down and slightly back. Your face can soften without losing edge. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the miss, not the applause when it arrives. The sky again. There's another kind of fracture, moral friction. You promised a thing and didn't do it, and the person on the other end is waiting. The most expensive part isn't the work, it's the time spent flinching. Install the integrity reset. 3 moves, own, offer, outline, own the miss without drama, offer a next time with a buffer you will honor. Outline the smallest thing you can deliver now. I missed the noon note, owning that. I can send the summary at 2:20 and the full write-up by 5 with a buffer. For now, here are the 3 bullets so you're not waiting blind. You don't earn back trust with heroics. You earn it by running the loop in public. Your body relaxes because your words match your actions. In a co-working space smelling of espresso and printer ink, Kay sent an integrity reset after slipping a deadline. The client's reply was calm. Kay's loop re-engaged. The next hour was not a flogging, it was production. That's the point. focus isn't a character test. It's a craft you practice in front of other humans. Sensation checkpoint. Feel the pressure of your feet from heel to toe. Let your jaw unhook. Let your tongue rest wider. Notice the back of your neck cool on the long exhale. Hear a sound under the obvious ones. You're marking the body as safe ground. The mind follows ground. We'll wire Setback Alchemy with a ritual called the 20-minute turn. When a miss lands, you schedule 20 minutes within 24 hours. Minutes 0 to 3, 4, 4, 6 and weather naming. Minutes 3 to 8, notice and name. Minutes 8 to 14, Nadel design a tiny experiment you can run in the next 2 days. Minutes 14 to 18, next, plant a bookmark and a calendar nudge. Minutes 18 to 20, close with dignity, say loop complete, perform one small physical gesture and walk away. You're not burying feeling, you're giving it form so it can move. A last story where the loop rescues what matters. In a sterile exam room, your doctor says a number you didn't want to hear. Heat floods your face, the floor tilts. The old move is to make grand vows and then break them in a week under the weight of vow size changes. Breaker, then alchemy, narrow, set up one follow-up and walk for 8 minutes today. Nudge, put shoes by the door and text friend, 8-minute walk at 6. Notify, tell partner the plan and the when. Notice, fear, name, tight chest, water at eyes. Needle, experiment, walk immediately after coffee on weekdays, put a glass by the machine, sidecar a grocery tweak. Next, right next, fill water, shoes at door. The number doesn't define you. The small inch you can do today does. In a month, your loop will have left footprints where panic wanted to leave dents. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral. Feel fabric at your forearms, the slight drag when you move. Let your gaze widen to the edges of the room, then return to the sentence in front of you. Press one finger to your chosen anchor, the mug ridge, the keyboard home key, and breathe once. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You can choose in the middle of weather. Close today by fusing the pieces. When the load spikes, whisper breaker. Narrow to one deliverable that matters. Nudge one visible inch. Notify one human with a time. Then run a tiny field around that narrow aim. If a streak snaps or a promise slips, schedule a 20-minute turn and run alchemy. If grief arrives, flip the grief circuit, sit, see, send. Plant a RAS bookmark before you leave the room. Write one afterglow line so tomorrow's you meets a friend, not a critic. None of this is heroic. It's honest craft under pressure. One more breath, exact and kind. In through the nose for 4, hold 4, out through the mouth for 6. Feel your shoulders drop, your jaw loosen, your hands grow warm. Name the identity line that won't break even when calendars do. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the miss, not the streak. You are the builder of small rails that carry you through fire without burning your life to ash. When the next spike hits, you won't audition for worth. You will flip the breaker, run the loop, and keep the lights that matter on. Your loop can now run in storms, on stage, and in the rubble of imperfect days. The last turn before we close is to scale your focus from hours to months without losing the tenderness that makes it durable. You do this by lifting your eyes from the next inch to the next horizon, then building rails from here to there. Today you'll install 2 frameworks that turn attention from a survival trick into a way of living. The first is the attention compass, a dead simple north, east, southwest that translates values into weekly choices. The second is the Weekly Focus Council, an 18-minute ritual where you steer your next 7 days like a craftsperson, not a firefighter. With a compass and a council, aim, anchor, advance becomes not just what you do under fire, but how you move through a season. Start by coming home to your body. Air cool on the way in, warm on the way out. Let your teeth unmeet so the jaw hangs softer. Feel your sit bones receive your weight, even and solid. Listen for a far sound, the rumble of traffic, a vent, then the nearest, the whisper of breath at the back of your throat. 1446 breath to return blood to the prefrontal cortex. You are not calming for calm's sake, you are preparing to choose. The attention compass is a sentence in 4 directions. North is why your present season value that deserves disproportionate attention. East is who, the relationships you will nourish on purpose. South is work, the single initiative that, if advanced weekly, changes the slope of your year. West is well, the practice that keeps your system able to choose under load. You write 1 line for each, then you point your week toward those lines with small, visible promises. A compass is not a spreadsheet. It is a direction you can feel with your feet. Watch it land in a life. In a 1-bedroom apartment that smelled faintly of coffee and laundry, Mee had been scattering her attention across 5 priorities every week, then watching Sunday arrive with a film of disappointment over everything. She wrote her compass on a card by the kettle. North, why? Stability to make room for art. East, who? Sister and 2 closest friends, no ghosting. South, work. Ship the first chapter of the course. West, well, sleep window 11/7, 4 nights. With the card in her line of sight, she built a week with rails. A 3-line ledger each morning, allocated precision to the chapter, people to the sister call on Wednesday, and production to invoicing on Friday. She stopped trying to be a myth. She moved the week like a human who knows where North lives. Pause, feel the fabric on your forearms, the slight drag when you shift. Let the exhale lengthen until your shoulders drop by a thumb's width. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral. You are the awareness that can hold a map, not the gust that insists on detours. The weekly focus council is where you sit with yourself for 18 minutes and make a handful of honest agreements. The council has 6 steps and a beat: clear, count, choose, carve, contract, close. Clear, empty your sidecar with a 1-minute capture so working memory starts light. Count, write last week's 3 true moves and 1 repair you made, even if small. This respects evidence. Choose, take your compass and nominate 1 north move, 1 east move, 1 south move, 1 west move for the next 7 days. Carve, place those as appointments in your calendar's precision and people envelopes, not as vague to-dos. Contract, send yourself and, if needed, 1 other person a single attention contract for the highest risk promise. Close, plant 2 RAS bookmarks for Monday morning and whisper, loop complete. The beat matters. Your nervous system learns that weeks can be steered in minutes. In a narrow kitchen lit by winter light, Jonah ran his counsel on Sunday nights with a mug warm in his hands. Clear, he dumped tax doc, call dad, update deck, cancel trial, run 30-minute clean, book dentist. Count, he named 3 moves, wrote 612 words, held a boundary with a teammate, repaired a missed deadline with an integrity reset, and 1 repair apologized to partner for snap. Choose, north, schedule debt payment call, east, Thursday lunch with dad, south, outline case study section 1, west, 3 20-minute walks. Carve actual blocks on the calendar. Contract, heads down Monday 9/11, red knocks only, will reply by 11:10. Close, a bookmark at the top of his draft file. Next, write the problem paragraph and 1 under the calendar. Next, move Thursday walk if rain. He stopped treating weeks like weather and started treating them like terrain. Drop back into the senses. The back of your neck cools when the exhale lengthens. Your eyelids weigh a gram more as your gaze widens to include the room's edges. The chair gives even pressure to your thighs. You're laying physiological track for planning without panic. A science bridge small enough to hold. When you name one north, east, south, west, you reduce choice overload. Your anterior cingulate stops spinning. When you place those moves on the calendar, you preload context and lower the cost of re-entry. When you count last week's positives and one repair, you deliver your reward system honest dopamine, not novelty sugar. Your basal ganglia strengthen the path of integrity and small wins. You are not learning theory. You are wiring reflex. A story at work scale. In a glass-walled office humming with HVAC, Priya had a migration project that kept slipping under the weight of smaller fires. Her compass for the quarter, north, credibility through predictable delivery. East, mentor Nina weekly. South, migrate auth by March 30. West, 3 strength sessions. In her counsel, she carved 2 90-minute precision blocks with 2-tab rule and a sanctuary switch. Wrote a 5-word contract to teammates, focus block, red Knox, 1:30, and planted bookmarks at the top of the migration dock for each block. She also scheduled a recurring 30-minute Nina 1-1 and wrote a tiny ritual, 3 questions and 1 next step per session. She shipped a drab status update every Friday with a timestamp and a risk. The project moved because the week carried it like a river carries a boat, not because she became a martyr. Bring attention to your feet inside your shoes. Spread the toes invisibly. Hear a faint hum, then the near sound of your breath. If the chest is high and tight, drop the exhale longer than the inhale. You are the sky again. Whether moves, you choose. The compass and counsel reveal where friction hides at scale. You need a seam where identity meets calendar. That seam is the values to calendar bridge. It's a micro phrase you use to translate values into verbs. Because I value X this season, the smallest weekly verb is Y. Because I value stability, automate bill pay Monday. Because I value family presence, 3 phone-free dinners. Because I value craft, edit 1 paragraph Friday. Values without verbs become slogans. Verbs without values become busy work. The bridge keeps you from both cliffs. In a small clinic with a waiting room that smelled of disinfectant and magazines, Lania was a nurse manager whose days belonged to alarms. Her compass, north, presence with patience, no rush face. East, coach 2 new grads. South, reduce handoff errors 30%. West, quiet breakfast before shift. Her bridge made it real. Because presence matters, she would take exactly 1-4-4-6 breath outside each room, hand on the doorframe as anchor. Because coaching matters, she would ask each grad 1 curiosity question and 1 what would make this easier each week. Because handoffs matter, she would implement a 2-line checklist in the chart. She ran her counsel in the empty break room on Tuesdays, 6 minutes between charts. Presence became architecture, not aspiration. Pause for a sensory beat. Taste the inside of your mouth, neutral, maybe coffee. Feel the fabric where it meets your shoulders, a soft line. Notice the small loosening in your temple when your exhale extends. Your nervous system keeps returning because you keep inviting it with precision. A common trap appears at this altitude, perfection creep. You design a week like a film set and then punish yourself when weather moves in. Counter it with the elastic plan. The elastic plan has 2 layers for each compass move, the gold line and the floor. Gold is the intended block, 90 minutes full setup. Floor is the minimum that still counts, 15 minutes 1 inch. When life pulls, you snap to the floor without shame and you close with dignity. The basal ganglia learn that you are reliable under drift. That's a sturdier identity than the myth of control. An artist in a shared studio named Rose used elastic. North, finish series by June. Gold, 3 morning sessions. Floor, sketch for 15 with timer. The week her child got sick, she hit the floor, whispered loop complete, and planted a bookmark. Next, shade the left edge. The series still moved. Guilt did not get to be the only soundtrack. Return again to the room. The back of your throat feels the slip of air. The chair gives reliable pressure. Your hands warm when you place them flat. You are building a home feeling where plans are written. Your council needs a social piece when others ride your calendar. Install the tiny alliance. It's a 2-sentence note you send to one person each week, aligning a compass move with theirs. North for me is stability. This week, that means shipping the Auth migration test on Wednesday by 4. Does that serve your timeline? If not, what's the smallest shift that keeps both our Norths intact? Cooperation replaces collision because you honor their compass, not just your own. Attention becomes a team resource, not a private bunker. Scale needs rituals that end, not just start. You're already close with dignity in sessions, now you'll close the week. The week close has 3 lines: moved, mended, marked. Moved is 1 sentence naming the square you advanced that mattered. Mended is 1 sentence naming the repair you made, apology, reset, boundary you held after a slip. Marked is 1 sentence naming a tiny moment of delight you would have missed if you were only measuring output. The way afternoon light hit your desk, the clean click of a timer, the laughter on a call. You are training attention to register craft and care, not only throughput. Story in the wild. A founder named Lewis used week close on Saturday mornings with espresso. Moved, shipped V2 of onboarding and reduced drop-off. Mended, reset promise with design after overcommitting, sent new date. Marked, sun on the kitchen tile at 7:10. The company did not turn gentle because he wrote 3 lines. His nervous system did. The next week began on human ground. Breathe with geometry. Inhale up the left of a rectangle for 4, hold across for 4. Exhale down the right for 6. Rest along the bottom for 1. The rectangle softens the forehead and broadens the back ribs. Your prefrontal cortex thanks you by showing up. We add one more system called the North Star Sprint. It's a 4-week arc where you pick one south, work, move, and give it a scaffold for a month. Week 1 is friction sculpting, build landing strips, padlock detours. Week 2 is throughput, 3x3 fields, 2-tab rule. Week 3 is quality, 70% rail and peer question. Week 4 is transfer, document what you learned so next month starts cheaper. Each Friday you run a 10-minute field notes debrief with ship or show evidence, a link, a screenshot, a paragraph. Sprints give months rhythm without whipping you. You are building a season like a song with verses and a chorus. In a small co-working nook, Amina used a North Star Sprint to draft a podcast pilot. Week 1, she built strips and scripts. Week 2, she recorded messy. Week 3, she edited with the 70% rail and sent to 2 trusted ears with 1 question. Week 4, she wrote a 1-page, what I'd repeat/refine, and a checklist. The work was not divine. It existed. Momentum beat myth. Sensation check. The skin at your cheeks cools a degree as breath lengthens. Your hands grow heavier and warmer. Hear the faintest sound. Let your face soften without slackening your spine. You are the awareness, not the ambition, not the calendar's accusations. You are the steward. At scale, invisible promises multiply. You already have promise receipts. Now install the weak gate. Before accepting any new yes, you pass it through 3 quick hinges. Does it serve north or south? Can it sit in a people or production window without stealing precision? What is the floor version if gold fails? If any answer wobbles, you default to not this week with a respectful delay. This is not stinginess. It is protecting the generator that lights the rooms you care about. Sometimes the compass reveals a misfit, a south you inherited that isn't yours anymore. You will feel it as chronic drag and a stale taste in the mouth even when you succeed. That's a values problem disguised as a productivity problem. Use the vector check. Draw a small arrow for each compass line in the direction it wants to pull you. If an arrow points opposite the others, you're hauling a past self. The move is a conversation with yourself or a partner. What would make these vectors cohere? Often it's a boundary or a declaration you've been avoiding. Focus improves not because you wring more from yourself, but because you stop pulling in 4 directions. In a quiet evening kitchen, Nor did a vector check and realized her south, publish 3 essays, fought her north, stability for a move. She shifted south to outline 1 essay, ship in Q2, freed precision for logistics, and watched her chest loosen. The essays improved when they didn't have to carry a house move on their backs. Return once more to the senses. Feel the weight of your clothes on your shoulders, the line where fabric meets skin. Listen for a sound beneath the obvious ones, a clock, a faint hiss. Let your jaw unhook. Let your breath be soundless. You are making room for clarity. We'll fuse compass and counsel with a drill called the 5-sentence week. On 1 small card, write 5 sentences before Monday noon. Sentence 1, your north in 9 words or fewer. Sentence 2, the south you will advance by 1 square. Sentence 3, the east relationship you will nourish and how. Sentence 4, the west practice you will repeat at least thrice. Sentence 5, the elastic plan floor for each. Put the card where your hand lands in the morning, on your keyboard, in your wallet, by your mug. The card is a friend in the room when your head forgets. In a noisy household, with serial clatter and shoes to find, a parent named Elena wrote her 5 sentences on a sticky by the coffee machine. She laughed at herself for needing an index card to remember love and craft. The card didn't make her perfect. It made her honest under noise. You'll bind all of this with a soft, fierce identity. Say this without irony. I am the person who returns, not who never slips, not who never misses. The person who returns to the compass on Sunday, to the council on Monday, to the floor on Wednesday when the gold is impossible, to the afterglow note on Friday, to the week close on Saturday morning. The person who returns is trustworthy. Your nervous system loves trust more than triumph. One last story to place in your chest. In a dim studio with a single tall window, Myra had a year that scattered her, illness in the family, a move, a product pivot at work. She built a compass she could hold when nothing else stayed put. North, keep choosing kindness over speed. East, 1 person a week fully. South, 1 page, 1 push. West, sleep window 3 nights. Her counsel shrank to 12 minutes, sometimes 6, sometimes run in a parked car with hands on the wheel as anchor. She kept a tiny habit of dignity. Every time she hit the floor, she whispered loop complete and touched the windowsill with 2 fingers like a runner touching a wall. She did not become a machine. She became a river that kept finding its way around stones. Breathe a precise 4-4-6. Feel the back ribs widen. Let your jaw unhook. Notice the temperature at your cheeks shift a degree cooler. Hear a quiet sound and then the quiet between sounds. Whisper it again in your own words. You are the awareness, not the emotion, the sky, not the weather, the steward, not the storm. The compass points. The council convenes. The week becomes a shape you can hold. Close by planting next week's seed now. Write your 4 compass lines. Put a 12 or 18-minute council on the calendar. Decide your gold and your floor for 1 south move. Send one tiny alliance note. Place the 5-sentence card by the object you touch first tomorrow. When the week tilts, you will not audition for worth. You will step onto rails you laid in a quiet minute with a soft jaw and a steady chest. Aim, anchor, advance will be the handholds. The weather rule will be the net. The close with dignity will be the curtain. That's how seasons turn without grinding you down, not by dominion, by rhythm. If regret tugs, hours scattered, months blurred, let it be weather. Name the signals, breathe 446. Run the smallest possible north move today, 1 sentence, 1 call, 1 stretch, 1 sleep window. Plant a RAS bookmark for morning. Whisper, loop complete. Stand up and feel both feet find the floor. It is October somewhere. It is always the right day to return. You made a compass for your weeks, a field for your days, and a loop for your minutes. This last chapter is where you let them braid into a single living thread. You don't need a harsher will. You need choreography your nervous system can dance without a conductor. Today you'll install 2 final frameworks that stitch everything you've learned into muscle memory. The first is the golden thread, a way to carry one clear intention from wake to sleep so every loop clicks into the next. The second is the return ritual 2x2, a tiny cadence you run at the 4 hinges of the day, wake, start, mid, close, so focus renews itself without fanfare. When the thread and the ritual are in place, aim, anchor, advance becomes less like a technique and more like how your hands naturally reach for the next wise inch. Start by entering the body you will live this day inside. Air cool on the way in, warm on the way out. Your jaw unhooks a millimeter so the teeth don't touch. Feel the chair press evenly on your thighs. Let your shoulder blades slide down and slightly back. Listen for the farthest sound, then for the near brush of breath at the back of your throat. 1 clean 446 breath. You're not seeking perfection, you're clearing the lens. The golden thread is a sentence you can say at breakfast that still makes sense at midnight. It has 2 parts, a north word from your compass and a near verb for your next field. Steady send the first paragraph. Kind ask 1 question before deciding. Ship, draft ugly and plant a bookmark. You speak it softly as you pour coffee, then again at your first focus field, then again as you cross the afternoon fog, and once more when you close with dignity. The thread keeps your reticular activating system tagging the same signal all day, so you don't feel like 4 different people dragging one another from room to room. It is not a motto on a wall. It is a cue in your mouth that your hands can obey. A small story to make it flesh. In an apartment that smelled faintly of toast, Irene woke to a calendar that would once have shredded her. A product review, a parent-teacher call, a budget deadline, a run to the pharmacy. She whispered her thread over the sink while the water warmed her palms. Steady, show 1 true sentence. At 9, under the spotlight of the review, she ran beam, bridge, beat and aimed for 1 sentence that made the room's job easier. At noon, on the phone with a teacher, she held the social anchor of both feet on the floor and asked 1 question before proposing fixes. At 3, in the budget doc, she ran a 3x3 focus field and started with the honest line no one wanted to write. At 6, pharmacy lights and fluorescent hum, she breathed the 90-second weather rule when the line crawled, then sent a respectful delay to a teammate instead of pretending she'd hit a ghost deadline. At 9, she wrote the afterglow note, did what she said, next is Titan's slide 2. The thread didn't make the day gentle, it made the day coherent. She didn't hold every plate, she held the thread. Pause here and notice temperature at your cheeks, a degree cooler as the exhale lengthens. Feel the fabric along your forearms, the soft drag when you shift. Taste the inside of your mouth. Your system reads these check-ins as safety. Safety unlocks choosing. The return ritual 2x2 is the day's metronome. 2 breaths and 2 verbs at 4 hinges: wake, start, mid, close. At wake, you widen your gaze for 1 window's worth of horizon and whisper your golden thread. Then you plant a sidecar pinpoint for the first field so your hands know where to land. At start, you flip the sanctuary switch, run a single 4-4-6, and say the aim aloud before touching your anchor and advancing 1 visible inch. At mid, you do the 90-second refuel and empty, view, move, sip, plus a 10-second sidecar capture to prevent the day from curdling into sludge. At close, you close with dignity and write the 2-line afterglow: what moved, next honest aim. The entire ritual takes less than 3 minutes across a day, yet it turns the calendar into a circle you can walk without losing yourself at the corners. Watch the hinges in a different life. In a warehouse office smelling of cardboard and diesel, Matteo arrived before dawn. Wake hinge at the loading dock, eyes on the pale line of sky above a fence, shoulders drop, thread, calm, start the count. Start hinge at his desk, headphones on, 4-4-6, aim whispered, confirm pallets 112, anchor is the pen's weight in his fingers, advance is writing the first checkmark. Mid-hinge at 1:10 p.m., view the horizon of the long aisle, press both feet, 2 sips, capture call vendor, reorder tape, pinpoint text Jorge, tape ETAs. Close hinge at dusk, moved 312 units, cleared vendor snag next, photograph damaged box, lid lowered with a quiet click, a breath with 1 palm on his sternum. He went home used in the good way, not erased. He didn't need a different job to feel human. He needed hinges. Breathe again with care. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Notice the back of your neck cool. Feel the crown of your head rise a fraction as the spine stacks. You are the awareness that can choose cadence in rooms that don't care about cadence. The golden thread meets a storm best when paired with a drill called morning microlaunch. It is a 60-second launch pad you run before the first ping touches you. You stand beside your workstation, not yet seated. Whisper the thread. Open the landing strip to full screen. Touch your anchor, mug ridge, keyboard home key, the seam of your notebook. Type 1 ugly line. Then sit. Sitting after a start tells your animal body you are already moving when you fold yourself into the chair. It sounds silly. It's engineering. Many days are decided in the first 30 seconds of contact. Here is a Brightroom story that used to end badly. On a Monday at 8:58 a.m., Kai opened his laptop and watched a red tide of messages rise. The old reflex was to surf until noon, then sprint with a hot face. The microlaunch cut a door in the wave. He stood, whispered ship, post the summary, opened the doc, typed the first stupid sentence. Summary, we're behind on data, on track on design, and only then sat. When the tide surged, he ran the breaker box, narrow to post summary and next dates, nudge by pasting the numbers, notify with a clean timestamp. By 9:14, the water around his ankles felt colder. He walked out of the morning instead of swimming in rumor. Taste the inside of your mouth again. If it's dry, sip. Feel the cool path down the throat, the way the chest softens after the second swallow. Listen for a far hum, then the near hiss of breath at your nostrils. You're laying track. There's a myth that integration means doing everything daily. Integration means the parts talk to each other. The thread feeds Spotlight Protocol with a bridge you can say under lights. The X ritual keeps your focus fuel circuit from becoming a novelty and your sidecar brain from bloating. The council makes your ritual land where your values live. The breaker box gives the ritual teeth when fire hits. The Setback Alchemy Cycle ensures the ritual survives missed days and returns kinder. You don't stack tools like bricks, you weave them like fibers. Rope is stronger than sticks. You'll wire the weave with a micro drill called the 7 doors walkthrough. You spend 5 minutes imagining a normal day's 7 literal or figurative doorways: bedroom door, kitchen door, building door, meeting room door, browser window, phone screen, home door, and attach a single breath or phrase at each. Doorframe breath at the bedroom door, 446 and the thread. Kitchen door, sidecar pinpoint. Office door, sanctuary switch gesture. Meeting room, social anchor scan, feet, breath, beat. Browser window, 2-tab rule reminder. Phone screen, home screen test, eyes first landing on your bookmark widget. Home door, close with dignity sentence spoken softly as you put the keys down. You do not nail yourself to these, you practice them like scales. When a song begins, your fingers find notes without debate. Let's shift scale to the level where years bend. The thread can become a season's murmur. A founder whispers, steady ship small for 12 weeks. A caregiver whispers, present, ask one question across a rough winter. A student whispers, patient, 30 lines while building a mind. The whisper is not magic. The whisper is a steering input. The ship still meets weather. The rudder keeps scratching the same line into the sea until it becomes a wake you can follow back in fog. Pause, sense warmth in your palms. Feel gravity's steady hand on your hips. Let your eyes widen to include the room's edges, then soften to return here. You are the awareness, not the urgency at your shoulder, not the face in the room that keeps enlarging in your mind, not the tab you haven't closed yet. You'll meet a day that laughs at rituals, sleep shattered, body sore, inbox strange, someone dear to you needs you now. The thread does not demand performance, it asks for the smallest faithful inch. On such a day, the ritual shrinks to a flaw called the one-breath covenant. Wake hinge, 1 breath and 1 word. Start hinge, 1 ugly line. Mid hinge, 1 sip and 1 verb. Close hinge, 1 sentence of what moved and 1 of what's next. You do it in a stairwell, in a bathroom, in a quiet parking lot. You have not failed. You have kept a covenant. The brain tracks covenants. Here's a last story, not polished but honest. On a Friday night beneath hospital lights, Divan waited for test results with his father. The machine hummed with an unkind rhythm. His phone lit with work pings he could not answer well. He put the device face down on the chair, a visible proof to himself. Thread, kind, ask 1 question. He asked the nurse for the next known time. Start hinge, he placed his hand on his sternum and breathed 446 once. Aim for the next 3 minutes was to describe the room's facts to his father and listen. Mid-hinge, view move sip in a hallway, eyes on a poster's edge, 2 foot presses, 2 slow swallows, then a sidecar pinpoint sent to a teammate. With dad, red knocks only, status at 10 tomorrow. Close hinge hours later, moved, stayed present for dad. Next, bring headphones and a book. There was fear. There were fluorescent shadows. There was a person who returned to himself in the middle of them. That is the loop's quiet promise. Not that life will be kind, but that you can be. Breathe now with geometry again, a rectangle you can feel without drawing. Inhale up the left for 4, hold along the top for 4, exhale down the right for 6, rest on the bottom for 1. As you exhale, whisper your thread for tomorrow, let it be stupidly simple. Steady, send the first line. Warm, ask 1 question. Ship, ugly draft first. See the thread like a thin gold line that passes through your morning mug, the ridge of your keyboard, the doorframe you touch, the timer that pings, the notebook you close. The line is not an order, it is a path. You lay it by walking it. You have learned the inner physics. Breath lengthens and blood returns to choosing parts. A spoken aim tags your RAS. The smallest advance unlocks dopamine's honest trickle. A 3x3 field beats mythical marathons. 2 tabs protect working memory. Sanctuary switch builds an interior room. Talk, glide respects fatigue. Single task studio shrinks chaos to a scene. Cue meaning gap and language latch turns storms into signals. Spotlight turns rooms into service. Field notes debrief converts adrenaline into learning. Fuel circuit powers the cabin. Sidecar empties the cockpit. Breaker box routes overload. Setback alchemy makes failure edible. Compass points. Counsel steers. Elastic keeps you human. But underneath all of it is the identity that holds. You are not the surge. You are the awareness choosing the next wise inch. Close your eyes for 3 breaths unless you're driving. Feel the warmth of your hands, the even pull of gravity, the cool ribbon of air at the nostrils. Place your fingertips on your anchor for 1 beat. Whisper a promise you can keep, to return once more even if you've just slipped. When the timer chimes, you will plant a bookmark and walk away with your shoulders a fraction lower than when you sat. That's the shape of dignity. Not perfect, not brittle, but repeatable. Fire will come. You will not audition, you will run the loop. The loop will carry you.